World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For the third event of the HyperX Open Series here on World Pro Racing, we head to a region in Germany steeped in motorsport folklore, the Eifel regions. And here tonight we head to the fantastic Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit for the third event of the HyperX Open Series, being broadcasted live on the World Pro Racing relevant Facebook Live, YouTube and also Twitch streams. And along with that, we welcome our viewers from TVM Sport in Malta, Motorsport.tv and the Esports Television Network. And as always, we can't thank our partners enough that help us to keep going here at World Pro Racing. Thanks to Gaming Malta, Thrustmaster, GT Omega Racing, AMD and of course the title sponsors of the Open Series, HyperX. My name's Alex Goldschmidt and alongside me, good to welcome back Kieran McGinley in the virtual commentary box. Kieran, it's going to be a very, very interesting dynamic tonight because we have a 15-minute free practice session, 15-minute qualifying session, and then we have two races, a 30-minute sprint and a 60-minute feature, both with the mandatory 10-minute pit stop window, and all drivers have to mandatorily refuel their cars. It's going to be an interesting one tonight, isn't it?
It really is, and good evening everyone watching along at home. It's got a little bit of everything tonight, hasn't it? We've got that short 30-minute sprint, we've got the longer 60-minute endurance, so both sides of the coin will be tested of our drivers today. And for those that perform the best, well, there's some lovely prizes as provided by our title sponsor in HyperX, awaiting the top three at the end of tonight. And I have to tell you, there's some great prizes. We've seen some of the drivers share their photos already about the prizes that have been delivered. They look absolutely fantastic. Well worth the effort they put in.
Yeah, I'm a bit jealous of those that always hit the top step of the podium after both races because they'll win a HyperX Alloy Elite 2 keyboard. The runner-up will get a headset, the Cloud Alpha 5, which you probably have seen on the infomercials before we went live here on World Pro Racing. And for the third place, the final step on the rostrum, it's a HyperX Pulsefire Haste Mouse. So, firstly, for those wondering, where can you find out more about World Pro Racing? Head to worldproracing.com, and if you want to find out what events are going on, we've got the Duo Series, which, funny enough, heads to this very track this coming Tuesday. We also have the final round at Road America, Elkhart Lake, for the Alpine GT4 Championship. The AMD GT4 Series continues this coming Thursday. And then the penultimate round of the World Pro Racing Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series Season 3, which will have its penultimate round as well. And there's also still time, if you are a representative of the great country of Malta, there is still time to get your entries in for the forthcoming Maltese Championship. It's the Multinational GT3 Championship for 2021, fueled by NMED. And there will be a qualifying stage. And then here on World Pro Racing, we will be doing some of the broadcasting later on this year. And the winner will represent Malta at the forthcoming FI8 Motorsport Games in the middle part of October at Circuit Paul Ricard in Le Castellet, just outside of Marseille in France. But coming on to tonight, Kieran, it's the third event after some great battling at Monza and Silverstone. The Nürburgring has its own unique challenges.
It really does, and very narrow in places, especially on the run down towards Valvoline and Ford. A very, very narrow part of the circuit where overtaking can be tricky. As well as that, you've also got the Dunlop curve, the hairpin right at the bottom of the circuit before you then climb your way through the Michael Schumacher S, approaching the Michelin curve. There's very limited overtaking opportunities, but one you could try and move is into the very first corner. A very wide entry into the corner, but it all tightens up halfway through the corner before you've then got the long left-hander through the Mercedes arena. So qualifying for these drivers is going to be important. As well as that, qualifying coming up decides the grid for both the sprint and the feature race.
Yes, and it is always a case of times for show, points to go, even though these are one-off events with prizes available for the top 3 drivers. One of the more interesting things about the point system in the sprint race is 18 for a victory, 15 for second, 13 for third. However, there's a bit of a caveat. For race 2, if you get on the podium, you get a deduction of points. So if it's first place, it's 3 points deduction. So say, for instance, if you win both races, you'll have 18 points plus 25, that's 43. Doc, effectively 3 points for taking P1 in the feature race, that gives you a total of 40 points. There'll be a 2-point deduction if you take second in the second race, and then a point for third. But now, free practice well underway. Hamada Erquizi running in the 404, a number normally occupied by the 408 Audi of Luke Whitehead. These two have been competing in multiple different championships, including they were in the title fight for the SimGrid Sprint Cup Season 3. We also got some very familiar faces from the likes of, GT Omega RPM Racing, Sheldon Muscat. We've also got multi-time GT3 casual race winner, Germany's Jan-Niklas Ebrich. David Ohak in his very, very brightly coloured Bentley Continental GT3 that both myself and Kieran clapped eyes on when it was sitting stationary in the pit lane. Ashton Cox. Simon Speth makes a return for TPC Racing, as does Alex Leif. We've also got Tom Otti, amongst others. Simon Crane, Miles Dixon, Jan Heiler, Dean Vella, amongst others. And you can see that the thunderous roar of Aston Martin, very much in effect, courtesy of Dean Riley in the SimSport Solutions car. But quite a myriad of different brands. We have McLaren, Aston Martin, Audi, Porsche. Sheldon Scott Muscat has done a very, very brave thing here tonight, Kieran, as has Alex Leif, because Sheldon Muscat has gone for the Lamborghini Huracan and Alex Leif has gone for Godzilla.
Yeah, Alex Leif and Godzilla, they go hand in hand, really. Leif loves to bring the Nissan whenever he possibly can. And I did see in this sort of, well, you could call it pre-session testing, there was the hint of a Jaguar somewhere out there, but there must have been cold feet, because that mind has quickly been changed over to another car. Was a shame. Would have loved to have seen a Jaguar. You don't normally see that in these types of races, but there's Jordan Grant Smith in the GS Racing Porsche and the number 120 now making his way through in towards Ford curve and onto this short run down towards the Dunlop curve. And it's downhill on braking on entry into this corner. Once you find the apex, the climb begins up towards the Schumacher S.
Yes, named after 7-time Formula One world champion Michael Schumacher. Unfortunately, because we are in Germany, I do have to put on my best pronunciation. Otherwise, I think the rest of my family would have my guts for garters, and probably a few friends from Germany that might be watching. So, hallo, guten Abend is all I'm going to say on that one. But Jordan Grant Smith currently running in P5, just under 9/10 off of Hamada Erquizi in his weapon of choice, the legendary 720S GT3 McLaren, 4-litre twin turbo V8, That's the M840 designation. That's the engine code for the car itself. It produces well over the best part of 540 brake horsepower and can produce in excess of 700 Newton meters of torque. And it is the car that doesn't have the highest red line. That dubious honour goes to the Audi R8 LMS Evo, which redlines at about 8,800 RPM. And there we go. There's the screaming 5.2 litre naturally aspirated V10 in the Audi. The Audi R8 GT3 is all. Luke Whitehead tries to do a bit of a Matthias Ekstrom from EKSRX impersonation, but this time in an Audi R8 going through the NGK chicane, and decides to exit does a return to garage. But still, between him and Hamada Erquizi, we saw in the initial free practice session, like the general free practice session, they was covered by less than 2/100ths of a second. And there's Dean Riley trying to push that Aston. It's just under 6.5 tenths slower than Hamada Erquizi. But I think we've got a really good fight on our hand for the top two.
Definitely, and Hamada Akizi, Luke Whitehead, both coming from the same stable. You hesitate to say team because there are no team championship points in this open event here, the HyperX Open Series. These drivers are out for themselves and they want those prizes for themselves. But we've seen some great battles here at World Pro Racing between Hamada Akizi and Luke Whitehead. Expect no different tonight either. As well as that, keep one eye at least, on Jonathan Seville, the number 97 Aston Martin, just over 2/10 off the pace of Hamada Akizi at the moment. Had a good showing at the last race he came into at Brands Hatch in a Pole Sim Sport Aston Martin and was on the pace, very much so. So one to keep your eye on here at World Pro Racing. He's a quick driver, he's proved it elsewhere, and now he wants to prove it here in the HyperX Open Series.
Yeah, one of 3 Pulse Sim Sport cars here this evening. Not only that will we have, along with Jonathan Seville, also have Miles Dixon in the 52 Audi, and also Simon Crane. Good to see the likes of, well, we've got some different faces, or different names in this. Arturas Medvedevas in the 115 Ferrari, the sole Ferrari in that. That's a very, very brave choice, but obviously here at the Nürburgring GP circuit, one of the attributes you need is a bit of mid-corner stability, and especially when you're going through, coming out of Valvoline, going into the right-hander at Ford before going down the dip into Dunlop, as there's Dean Vella, who's decided to go into McLaren's finest in the 54 720S. Now he makes his way through into the Dunlop curve, and now I've just noticed here, Kieran, that Dean Riley is picking up the pace in that Aston Martin Vantage V8 GT3. He's got to within 0.43 of Hamada Erquizi. And even though, now that is a car that definitely didn't want to be turned around. Now, was that Luke Whitehead, possibly, judging by that livery?
I think that was Ashton Cox, the number 158 then.
Thank goodness for that. I nearly gave myself a heart attack.
I think you all nearly gave us one, to be fair.
Well, the thing is that when you've got drivers like Luke and Hamada really pushing like crazy, you're going to find that they're going to push the limits of adhesion. And I've seen it before where mistakes can happen. And it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter your skill set. You could have an opportunity to really capitalise if you keep your head cool and others lose theirs. Good to see Silver Pinamets there in the number 23 Porsche. The Porsche, the heaviest car out of the entire grid, 1,340 kilos. And just judging by the technical specifications I've got, the one that has the lowest amount of torque, but it is quite a good weapon of choice here at the Nürburgring. Rear-engined, rear-wheel drive, 4-litre flat 6. It feels at home here at the Nürburgring.
It does, and of course, it being one of its home tracks here in Germany, of course it's going to want to be doing the best that it can, but it's not normally a sentence you say together. The least amount of torque among the field, yet the heaviest. It doesn't sound like a combination that could work. However, the shorter wheelbase between cars, the Silver Pyramids goes right through the NGK chicane there, and not stopping that one in a hurry. You normally get the shorter wheelbase will help the handling of that car through these mid-speed corners. So what it makes up for is it's more a balanced car more than any other in this one, but the balance of performance really does help bring the best of the Porsche out.
It does. and as long as you get it right. Now, even though it might be the most compromised car in terms of weight, it has a lot of pedigree. And now we see Jordan Grant-Smith make his way out of Ford and down to Dunlop. It was a brief yellow flag out, but at the minute, Jordan Grant-Smith currently running out the top 5, 0.894, off of the fastest time from the McLaren of Hamada Erquizi from H3 Racing. And then we have the 3:54 of Oleg Kamenev running at the top 6, and at the moment 3 of the top 6 are completed by Aston Martin. We have a McLaren, we have an Audi, we have a Porsche. Good to see that Bentley, Lamborghini and Lexus are rounding out the top 10. So that's a good mix of manufacturers. It's really good to see how the brands are mixing it up a little bit here in terms of the top 10. But we could see a very different story in qualifying, Kieran.
We could, because sometimes you don't want to give too much away in these practice sessions. As I always say, it's more about keeping your cards close to your chest in this practice session. Don't give too much away to your rivals. And then it comes into qualifying where that one lap really does count. All that practice you put in over the week and over the days just to get that perfect lap time, you've now got to pull that lap together. And that is not as easy as it sounds. We've seen Hamada Erquizi and Luke Whitehead both have lap times in the past that just weren't their best. They weren't what we were expecting. And those sort of starts mean that if they get a lap time that they're not happy with, there's not a lot they can do after that 15 minutes has expired, because they've got to use that grid slot for the next 2 races tonight. So really, they'll be putting themselves under the scope and trying to make sure they get the best performance out of the car possible. There's Simon Speth then in the Garage 59 Aston Martin taking a bit of curb then, and it does look like the cars go onto the grass or the exit of Valvoline then, but there is a little bit of tarmac and AstroTurf there that the drivers will use to open up that little bit of a corner there.
So, just under 30 seconds in the free practice session for the third event for the HyperX Open Series here at the famed Nürburgring GP circuit. We ride on board with the local to these parts, Simon Speth, running in the Garage 59 livery. Now up towards the next left-hander into Michelin, and then up towards the next right-hander, Warsteiner. And then, well, there's one car that was beached on the outside, checkered flag out for the session. Simon Speth now winds up the wick on the V8, up to 5th gear, over 230 kilometers an hour on the exit of Advan. Now heavy on the brakes down into the NGK chicane. The back end tries to step out a little bit to the right hand side, but Simon Speth neatly controls it through the NGK chicane and then through the final corner, the Coca-Cola corner itself. And he now, will he improve from 14th position up to P9 behind David Ohak. And there is another German regular here on World Pro Racing out on the circuit, Jan-Niklas Epprich. In the 299, his trusted weapon of choice, in the words of Fatboy Slim. The Lexus RCF GT3, 5.4 litre, naturally aspirated V8. Oh, and he does a bit of rally crossing and a bit of Valtteri Bottas grass cutting coming out of the NGK chicane, but through Coca-Cola. Let's see if he ends up going higher than P12 on this lap. P6, good effort there, but that's it for free practice. So that really gave us a bit of an indicator that we are going to see a straight-out dogfight between Hamada Erquizi and Luke Whitehead. And I think the point that you made reference to earlier on, Kieran, is that they might come from the same stable, but tonight the gloves are well and truly off and the elbows are well and truly out.
They will be. They've got the good amount of respect between drivers as teammates would have, but they know as soon as the green flag drops, as soon as each session starts, they're on their own. They'll help each other with setups, they'll help each other with track knowledge, but as soon as that race starts, they're on their own. And it's great to see that healthy rivalry between teams. Just to touch on briefly, you'll see a lot of the drivers here trying to make sure that they've got their suspension setups right. And through the NGK chicane, that final chicane going through there, it is so bumpy on the entry into the braking zone there. Very easy to drop the rear end just by the rear end over-rotating from the fact that it can't take the bumps properly. That's something the drivers are going to have to be wary of on their fast-flying lap. That is not a place where you want to bin your lap time off and have the rest of the 1 minute 40 that you've spent putting in that really good lap all gone to waste.
So, drivers now out for qualifying. It's a 15-minute rapid-fire session, and as Kieran alluded to earlier, these qualifying sessions decide the grids for both races. It is a one-shot opportunity as Luke Whitehead makes his way out of Warsteiner, uses a bit of runoff on the AstroTurf coming out of the corner, and now heading his way through into Advan. So let's see if we can. Let's go on board with Luke Whitehead for his next lap. Let's see if we can... right, okay, on board through the NGK chicane. Down from third into second, just under 100 kph on the apex of Coca-Cola. Now accelerating towards the Haug-Haken. The name Haug, known in German motorsport courtesy of Norbert Haug, the former head of Mercedes-AMG Motorsport before Toto Wolff took it over. Down into the Haug-Haken. This is the slowest part on the circuit. You've got to really know the apex and then start fighting with the car to bring it over to the left for the Mercedes arena. So there'll be another next left-hander before you go into the pretty much the 90 rights, and you're using as much curb as you dare, but you're having to be careful on brake and throttle modulation. Exit out of the corner with good speed does Luke Whitehead. Now into the left-hander here at Valvoline. 212 on the speedometer, drops down to third gear. That was 150 on the apex. Down another gear through forward. On the power once again, and allow the car to drift to the right to get a real good little bit to the right hand side, but you've got to keep it to the left here heading into Dunlop. Down from fifth to first gear, again another tight apex, and you can see how much Luke Whitehead is wrestling with that steering wheel as now we go up to the Michael Schumacher S's. 190 kilometers an hour through the first part. Slight bit of a lift there, but he manages to keep it coaxed through into the left-hander here at Michelin. Second gear, 120 kph. Back on the power once again into the right-hander. You can see the camber change here going into Warsteiner before. The right-hand sweeper, the fastest corner on the circuit, Advan. Fifth gear. And he exits it at over 230 kilometers an hour before hard on the brakes once again from nearly 250 kph down into third, and he scrubs off over 100 kilometers an hour of speed down the gearbox once again into second, out of the final corner through Coca-Cola. So Luke Whitehead will set an initial benchmark, and it is going to be a 1 minute 53.499.
Pretty good lap then from Luke Whitehead. We'll have to see what driver can really match up to that one. David Ohak gets within a second of that lap time, with second fastest right now. Dean Riley now with just over 6.5 tenths off of that provisional pole position time. There's Jan-Nicolas Ebrich then in the DJ Racing Lexus, the 299. Through Advan we go, and flat out through there. No lift needed whatsoever as we head up towards the NGK chicane, and you can see so bumpy on the entry through that first part of the last chicane. Through now in towards the Coca-Cola curve, and it's just patience coming out of the last corner. You really want to get the power down, but get it down too early and you'll understeer the car straight into that conveniently placed gravel trap. 8th fastest then from Jan-Nicolas Ebrich, puts him onto the 4th row of the grid, at least for now.
Yep, 9th place for the German. Well, it's all changed because Miles Dixon's just gone 9th. That's how quickly things can change in qualifying, as Jordan Grant-Smith absolutely hustles the 120 Porsche and aborts the lap. Well, I think he knew he went in a bit too hot there, but Hamada Erkouizi is firing the warning shot across the back bumper of that Audi, as Erkouizi has gone second. Dean Riley, 6.5 tenths off of provisional pole for both the sprint and the feature races, as Luke Whitehead again, that V12 howling like a banshee, going through Advan, nigh on bouncing off the rev limiter, down on the brakes into third gear. And you were right about what you were saying, that you need the ride to be a little bit more compliant on the damper setting, especially with the suspension the spring rate of return needs to be spot on in order for you to compose yourself and get the car going quickly. And Luke Whitehead goes quicker, 1 minute 53.373, and that has put Hamada Akwizi on notice, because Akwizi is just over 0.2 of a second slower on his fastest lap. But you can see here, Akwizi, I think, is just winding up for his next flying lap. But that looked rather stable from the McLaren there, Kieran.
It did, and yeah, it looks like he's got the ride pretty much as he wants as Kamenev now comes across the line in the funny Formula Wombats Aston Martin, the number 354, currently on the second row of the grid and looking to extend and try and find even more time out there. There's Miles Dixon in the Pulse Sim Sport Audi in the number 52. Going through the Coca-Cola curve, getting back onto the bow then in that Audi and screaming, screeching up towards the start-finish line. Can he improve on his lap time? He can. Goes 9th fastest with a 54.6.
Alex Leif from TPC Sim Racing goes across the line. He's currently P12 at the moment in the sole Godzilla entrant, the Nissan GTR Nismo GT3. Luke Whitehead again just pushing that car. I think he wants to send a message to Hamada Akwizi, as you alluded to earlier, Kieran. Oh, and he goes sideways through. He caught that one beautifully through Michelin, but that will have cost him a couple of tenths through that corner. But the 5.2 litre naturally aspirated mid-mounted V10 engine howling its way once again through Advan. Down into the braking zone for the NGK chicane, and again, oh, that's getting rather sideways. Oh, and he's lost it. He's lost it, did Whitehead. Ah, that limit of adhesion, I think, was well and truly exceeded on that particular occasion.
Yeah, full attack through the last chicane there, the NGK chicane, and the car just simply wasn't having it at all. There's a certain limit that these cars have in terms of attack in that final chicane, and even if you go slightly over, the cars will bite back. Akwizi now tackling the NGK chicane there, and again, that back end wanting to step out as we head in towards the Coca-Cola curve. Through now, back onto the power in that McLaren, and onwards now towards the start-finish line. Akwizi will cross the line. Will it be quicker? It is quickest, 53.268. He's now on provisional pole position.
Yeah, that was by 0.3 of a second. We're on board with Jonathan Seville in the 97 from Pulse Sim Sport, as the Aston Martin heads its way through Advan. And for the people that say, well, it sounds a bit similar to a Mercedes engine, well, you're pretty much not far wrong there, because it's had a bit. It's a 4-litre twin-turbo V8 produced in a Falterbach, and then Aston Martin have worked their magic on that, and obviously Aston Martin Cognizant Formula 1 use Mercedes power units. And Seville goes up into P4. Good effort from the 97. 4.5 tenths exactly off of Hamada Akwizi. But going back to Akwizi's lap, that was a really good run from him, because he took, it was a 2.219 deficit, and he made that a 0.3 of a second advantage. He got so much time in terms of where Whitehead is, but Whitehead will want to prove a point. If he can't do it in qualifying, he'll do it in the race. But also the good thing is, Kieran, there are no points for pole position or any qualifying position in the Open Series.
That's absolutely spot on there, Alex. Absolutely no points scored for pole position, which means all the points are rewarded in the race. But the narrow nature that is the Nürburgring doesn't offer many overtaking opportunities. So qualifying, although it doesn't offer any points, is critical to these drivers. They know that pole position, or at least that front row, is the key to finishing at the top of one of these races.
Yeah, Simon Crane has got a bit of work to do. He's currently P23, yet to set a lap time in the 53 Pulse Sim Sport Audi, as he makes his way through into Michelin for the next 90 right at Warsteiner. It's nice to see a bit of colour differentiation with the cars as well, especially with what we've seen with Miles Dixon and with Simon Crane. Miles Dixon has definitely gone for the very bright approach on the rear haunches of his Audi, where with Simon Crane it's a bit more discreet as he bumps his way through the NGK chicane. Back end steps out to the left. Crane manages to catch it as he's now coming through Coca-Cola. And with just under 4.5 minutes to go, where will Simon Crane initially factor in? P19, 2.4 seconds off the pace. But still at the moment with 4 minutes and 20 still remaining in the qualifying session for the sprint and feature race. It's Hamada Erquizi from H3 Racing, the 404 McLaren, that leads Luke Whitehead by just over a tenth of a second.
Yeah, just over 4 minutes to go. So realistically, if you cross the line now, you've got time for 2, maybe even 3 flying laps. But for Luke Whitehead, this will be third to last for him. He'll be able to get to the line and pretty much 2 more laps to go. So if he's got the fuel for it, if he's got the tyres for it as well, then watch this space for the Audi and the Ashtois Racing. Audi really riding the curbs there, full attack through there, showing those curbs no mercy. And he'll actually abort that lap time, take a wider entrance in towards the Coca-Cola curb so he can get the power down earlier. So that's a pure sign there that he's going for another lap time. He abandoned that previous one. He's going to have to go again. He's got a tenth of a second to find at least.
Yeah, he's got an opportunity to put in 2 flying laps, by my estimation, if we were running in the 153s. But Dean Vella from GT Omega RPM Esports, the number 54, running in the McLaren 720S. Currently 1.158 seconds off of Hamada Erquizi, who's in exactly the same machinery, but Erquizi seems to have the number of the circuit well and truly numbered, so to speak. And now we ride on board with the 720S, and good to see from our broadcast crew over in Malta, the lovely picture-in-picture as we're on board on the main picture. You can insert, we're actually trackside watching Dean Vella at the moment as he's just made his way through Advan. Now into the braking zone for the NGK chicane, wrestling with that steering wheel, but that was very neat and tidy there from Dean Vella. Into Coca-Cola, carry the momentum through, swing wide before going back into the apex, come out of the final corner. Now Vella is currently 9th. Does he improve? Not on that particular, well, it was his best, and he's actually got to within 3 1,000ths of TPC Sim Racing's Simon Speth. And there is the Lithuanian of Arturas Medvedevas running at the top 18. Still good to see the prancing horse from Maranello represented in this field, but I am a bit disappointed about the Emil Fry Jaguar GT3 not making an appearance. Neither another car on Assetto Corsa Competizione that doesn't really get a lot of love here, Kieran, is the Reiter Engineering REX GT3 that is actually based on a Lamborghini Gallardo.
Absolutely, and you were lamenting to me before how you don't really see many drivers take the plunge with that car, and it is a shame because it's a nice car to drive, it's a nice car to look at as well, at least from the commentary box. But for other drivers, maybe there are just other cars that they're more comfortable with, maybe more predictable. You know, the flamboyant style of the Lamborghini is mastered by very few drivers in the world.
Yes, indeed. Thomas Enger actually very much in... Oh, it's Dean Riley. Oh, he had a bit of a Code Brown moment there coming through the second half of the NGK chicane, but you know, I've kept an eye on... Well, I've commentated on Dean Riley from when I started with SimSport Racing a little while ago, and he's actually part of the SimSport Solutions crew. There's Medvedevas still trying to improve. There is a yellow flag out. For the 158, that's Ashton Cox, who's currently 14th, and Cox has just done a return to garage. So we're into the last 45 seconds of this. Don't forget, if you do want to get involved, we do not only compete on Assetto Corsa Competizione, we also compete on Gran Turismo Sports and R Factor 2 on PC and PS4. So head to worldproracing.com/events to find out. There's still spaces available for the Giro Series at this particular circuit. It's a team event, so if you're going to come along, you need to bring someone along with you for that adventure. And that is this coming Tuesday as Medvedevas gets a real good tow. Now, is that Jan-Niklas Ebrich? I think, oh no, that's not Jan-Niklas Ebrich, but that Lexus, that was Pedesada, I believe, in the number 7, that has just been sent off the track unceremoniously, and that means that the session has ended, and Luke Whitehead was at full chat coming through Advan and through into the NGK chicane. But let's just see, does he have enough in the tank in that Audi to come across line, because Erquizi thinks the job's been done. Luke Whitehead does it by 36 thousandths on the line from Luke Whitehead. That was absolutely timed to perfection by the 408.
Absolutely, but I gotta say, the number 120 of Jordan Grant Smith is just over a tenth of a second away from that provisional pole position time. He's coming through the last couple of corners. I wonder if there's an improvement here from the Porsche driver as he now makes his way around the Coca-Cola curve. He'll be making his way towards the line. And is there an improvement for Grant Smith? No, there isn't. He stays third fastest then. So we're watching on with Simon Crane then in the Pulse SimSport Racing number 53 Audi as he now powers on towards the flying right-hander of Advan. You can see riding on board and watching from trackside how that car just eases through the right-hander. Now in towards the NGK chicane. Riding those bumps, then you can see fighting the steering wheel of the Audi. I'm in control, says Simon Crane. Through now in towards the Coca-Cola curve. Currently 19th fastest in this qualifying session. The short run to the line and towards the checkered flag. And he goes up to 12th fastest, just 1.4 seconds off of the pole position time as the last of the drivers now make their way through the chicane. And there's Sheldon Muscat. Then you can see the flamboyant style of the Lamborghini really wanting to push the tail out, try and flick the tail out as well as we see the last of the drivers head towards the line. Then Sheldon Muscat, don't think he was on a lap. If he was, it was an invalidation. But Luke Whitehead leaves it late to grab that pole position.
I think Hamada Akrizi is probably kicking himself right now as if to saying, what do I need to do? Well, what you need to do, Hamada, is to beat him in both races this evening and then get the top prize tonight here on the HyperX Open Series. Well, before we get our first of two races underway, we're going to go to a quick commercial break here on World Pro Racing. We'll be back in a couple of minutes, folks. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's nearly time to let the green flag fly for the first of 2 races for the 3rd event of the HyperX Open Series, live and uninterrupted here on World Pro Racing. It's Alex Goldschmidt and Kieran McGinley with you all the way through this evening's proceedings, and there is the grid. Luke Whitehead, by 36 thousandths of a second, took pole position like candy from a baby off of her mother at Queasy. They line up on the front row. Jordan Grant Smith, who Harry Spears says in the YouTube chat, good evening Harry by the way, Grant Smith P1 is his prediction already. People have already said that Pulse Simsport might be sandbagging. Well, we'll wait and see on that one. We've got Jonathan Seville, Dean Riley, we've got Oleg Kamenev, Jan-Niklas Ebrich, Dean Vella, Simon Speth, David Ohak, Miles Dixon and Simon Crane completing the top 12 ahead of Jan Heiler, Alex Leif, Ashton Cox, Gurgley Consabo, Sheldon Muscat. Then you've also got Michael Peresada, Arturas Medvedevas. Then you've got Neville in the number 20, in 20th position ahead of Tom Ottey. You've also got Tom McEwing and Silver Pimets. That is the top 23 positions. But we are set for 30 minutes of racing. We are doing a full lap rolling start this particular occasion. And Kieran, first telling point here is that these tyres are going to be tortured, because look at the track temperature.
Scorching would be a word to describe that, wouldn't it? 34
Yes.
degrees Celsius just on the track surface, and well, with the weather continuing to say this glorious sunshine here in the Eifel region, with the wind not really making too much of an impact. In fact, it's pretty still at the circuit right now. Don't expect these conditions to change very abruptly very soon. We should be in for some good racing, and most importantly for the drivers, maybe some consistent track performance as well. Normally when you get some changes in temperature, changes in track temperature, you have to account for that during your races here, but from the looks of the weather, not much is going to change, and I think that's going to be a sigh of relief to some of these drivers.
It'll be a sigh of relief, but they've got to watch the degradation. There is a mandatory pit stop. There will be a 10-minute pit stop window where refueling is mandatory for all competitors. If they put on tyres, that's going to be a 30-second stop in the pit box, and that could cause a little bit of a cat amongst the pigeons situation, but we get ourselves ready. And this circuit established back in the mid-1980s, 1984, and they had a Race of Champions event where they had the Mercedes 190 Evo 2.316 valve cars that were championed by the likes of Bernd Schneider, Klaus Ludwig back in the days of the DTM in the 1990s, when that car went ahead and battled with the likes of the E30 BMW M3. However, the third event of the HyperX Open Series here on World Pro Racing is about to get underway. So it is Whitehead from Erquisi, Grant Smith from Seville, Riley, Kamenev, Ebrich, Vella, Speth and Ohak. That is your top 10. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, hope you've got some popcorn and a beverage of your choice at your side, because we are very, very close to see the green flag wave here for the HyperX Open Series at the Nürburgring. So, green flag waves, and they are off and away. Let's see who gets the whole shot. It looks to be the fact that that Audi has got the traction on the McLaren, and there already is Jordan Grant Smith challenging Hamada Erquisi going into the Halkhaken, as that is a couple of the Pulse Simsport cars I've just seen. But already we've got a battle. That's Seville and Riley battling away, I think, for 4th and 5th position, as Grant Smith trying to look up the inside through the second part of the Mercedes arena on Hamada Erquisi, but no dice there. Now down the next part of the circuit, through towards the approach to Valvoline. There is Ashton Cox, part of the H2R Racing contingent, and he's down, way down the order, as Luke Whitehead leading the train down through Ford. The run down, the sweeping left-hander, very much like the Parabolica in Hockenheim, but to not the extensive speeds that we would see. Through into the right-hander here at Dunlop. Up the hill First time through the Michael Schumacher S's fourth gear, 190 kilometers an hour and climbing. You've got to nail that curb on both sides and not hit them too hard and have the damper rebound rates at the optimum. But it looks like, Kieran, Whitehead, Urquizy and Grant Smith trying to get away, but Grant Smith goes a bit wide going through into Michelin.
Yeah, that's going to cost him a little bit of momentum here. Meanwhile, Tom Otti battling away with the massive Bentley then. I think that's Peresada who's trying to find his way through. He does find his way through now. He's got the inside line now going into Vorsteiner, but he might find his exit slightly compromised. He's going to have a job on his hands to keep that position under his belt. Luke Whitehead, though, leading the way, and 5 drivers getting an automatic drive-through penalty for starting infringements. So the likes of Miles Dixon, Sheldon Muscat, Silver Pyramids, Tom Otti and Arturas Medvedevas all got drive-through penalties for a starting infringement. Dixon comes in. Meanwhile, then Urquizy down the inside in towards the first turn.
Yeah, but Whitehead could have the run coming out of it as Oleg Kamenev and Jonathan Seville. Oh, and Seville clashes with Kamenev. That's allowed Jan-Niklas Everich to go up the inside of the 97. Oh, the hometown heroes are coming along to the party. And Jan-Niklas Everich has made sure he's given everyone else something to think about. And now the German up into P5. Let's have a look at the replay here. Now, this is at the back part of the field. We've got the number 89. That's Tom McEwing. That's going through out of the Haaghaken into the Mercedes arena. And then he's going to get a slight touch here, I think, from Peresada. Well, he loses it at the back end slightly. And Peresada, yeah, oh, and then he just literally goes wide, gets turned around. And I think Ashton Cox in that one was an unwilling participant. I don't think Ashton Cox was at fault, but obviously that's down to race control. Simon Speth at the moment is ahead of Sheldon Muscat, one of the 5 drivers that were infringing on the start procedure. And so Muscat, within the next couple of laps, must serve that penalty, as must Silver Pyramids. So at the moment, Hamada Urquizy leads the way by just under 0.3 of a second, ahead of Luke Whitehead, Jordan Grant Smith, Oleg Kamenev, Jan-Niklas Everich. There's Jonathan Seville from Pulse Simsport. He's got Dean Riley from Simsport Solutions trying to chase him down. And there is the bright minty green Bentley of David Ohak in the number 13. He's being chased down by Dean Vella, and then they've got Simon Speth just behind, as Hamada Urquizy in the McLaren 720S GT3, more affectionately called the Torque Monster, has still got a gap ahead of Luke Whitehead. But one of the most important things here, Kieran, is that Luke Whitehead is keeping Urquizy honest.
He really is, and we always knew these two were going to be battling hammer and tong. Meanwhile then, we've got 2 Audis battling for position. Cox and Dixon then making their way up towards the NGK chicane, and probably wisely Dixon having to back out of that one, because there's Ashton Cox who runs too deep in towards the second part of the NGK chicane. It will bite back if you mistreat it, and there goes Dixon, then swoops around the outside and takes that position away. Gergely Kunsabo then battling away with I think that's Silver Pyramids then going in towards that Mercedes arena. Oh, they make contact there. The number 23 of Silver Pyramids makes contact with the Hungarian Kunsabo. He cedes the position, does Silver Pyramids, but look at that, it's allowed Peresada to have a free position as well.
Yeah, Rubens just said in the chat, why is Gergely Kunsabo not P1? Well, we were waiting to see if anything was going to transpire in front of him. It didn't really quite transpire because it kicked off behind him. As Michael Peresada in the number 7 Bentley Continental GT3 now ahead. Now Silver Pyramids, I must be completely honest here, is the only driver to not serve a drive-through penalty. As there is Dean Vella, he's basically the meat in the sandwich of both crew and Gaydon's finest, and he's got David Ohak just up ahead, and then Simon Speth running in the Garage 59 colours, sometimes normally associated with British GT in its own right, and as we ride on board with the German in the number 59, out of Warsteiner down to Advan. Nice picture-in-picture once again by our broadcast crew, and already the calls for ban the Porsche have already started in the chat. Thank you, Reba. But you can see here that this battle is not abating by any stretch of the imagination, and what's more, Simon Speth is keeping some sort of pace with Dean Vella. The gap is extended between the pair by just over 0.4 of a second.
Yeah, and Luke Whitehead now will be focusing on when that pit window opens. Talking of strategy here, well, when it's fueling mandatory, but in a position where tyre change isn't mandatory, well, how early do you stop? How late do you stop in that 10-minute pit window that will have opening in just about 3 minutes and 40 seconds time? Do you stop earlier, having the lighter car for the first stint and try and make use of the lighter car, or do you run heavier for your first stint with the hopes that you get a shorter pit stop and a lighter car for the end with the compromise of pace early on? Or do you try and go right down the middle? You have a similar car at the start of the race as you do when you start your second stint. That is entirely up to the drivers, and I would like to see actually these great strategies coming together once again. The question is, are Akisi and Whitehead thinking this through? What's their strategies going to be like, and who will be the first to blink?
Yeah, because at the moment Whitehead is closing. The gap was just over 4/10. It's now down to just over 2 as they head into the left-hander here at Michelin. We're on lap 4 of the 30-minute sprint race. Pit stop window opens in just over 2 3/4 minutes. They'll have only 10 minutes dive into the pit lane as Jan-Niklas Ebrich trying to keep with, well, that looks to be Jonathan Seville that's actually ahead of the 299 Lexus, and there is Dean Riley in 7th. So very much the case that a lot of drivers still keeping themselves composed, and it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, even though this is the sprint race and we've still got the feature to come. But Dean Riley very close on the back bumper into the braking zone for Coca-Cola on Jan-Niklas Ebrich. And that's the battle for 6th and 7th. We ride on board with the SimSport Solutions Aston Martin. And winding that car all the way up to braking zone for the Haughaken, down from 5th into 1st. This is one of the slowest parts on the circuit, if not the slowest part on the circuit. Gets the car over to the right-hand side to carry the rotation through into the next left-hander. And then it's another one up here at the exit of the Mercedes Arena. You can see the tribunes on the far side of the circuit there, which at the moment, well, this weekend will host not just the FIA World Touring Car Cup, but also the ADAC Nürburgring Nordschleife, 24 hours this weekend. And I hear for a fact that they've had rain over there, whereas here at our version of the Nürburgring, everything's nice and sunny, and what's more, the track temperature has increased by a single degree to 35 degrees Celsius. But I said about it being a marathon and not a sprint. I think Luke Whitehead's playing the long game here, Kieran, because he's not pressurising, but he's keeping it consistent, and that's what you need to do.
Yeah, and that single degree Celsius rising in track temperature may not seem like a lot, but to these drivers, they have to rethink about how do they keep their tyre temperatures in check. That's a little bit of pressure adjustment in the tyres as well. How much PSI comes off or goes on to make sure the tyres keep their integrity. It is a lot to think about. Jan-Niklas Ebrich here, who won the 226 kilometres of the Nürburgring Special here at World Pro Racing, on the last lap, making one of his only mistakes and flying over the NGK chicane. Hopefully he'll be trying to avoid doing that every single time this race. And currently 6th place, he's got Dean Riley right behind him though, making him honest and making him use those mirrors maybe every second.
Yeah, well, we've got our first penalty in. Medvedevas has got a 5-second time penalty, courtesy of our race director, Adrian Figalo. He's working with George Muscat, so our FIA accredited team of stewards. It's a 5-second time penalty. And then it gets even better because the 158 of Ashton Cox has had a 5-second time penalty for an unsafe rejoin. But in the meantime, pit stop window for the first of 2 races tonight here on the HyperX Open Series on World Pro Racing officially open.
Yep, and so we'll see who will be able to blink first. Tom McEwing, then, I have to say, considering the fact that he was pretty much all the way around going in towards turn 3 on lap 1, the fact that he's now up into 16th place, that's a stunning drive from the McEwing Motorsport car right now. I'm looking forward to see how much further up the grid he can go. He's got 7.3 seconds between himself and Peresada ahead in the Bentley. Right now, though, he's got the 321 Audi of Neville right behind.
Yeah, so now the McLaren's starting to pull away. It's going into the left-hander here at Valvoline. So looks like there are a couple of cars that have already come in. Tom Otti, Medvedevas and Silver Pirmet. So Medvedevas will have 5 seconds stationary in the pits. before that car gets worked on. So refueling is mandatory. So Silver Pimet looks to be the first one coming out of the pit lane in the 23 Porsche. The Estonian will look to move up the field. And there is Jan-Niklas Eberich. The battle not abating between him and Dean Riley in the 22 Sim Sport Solutions car. And listen to that rumble. That is very, very visceral, that rumble of that 4-litre V8 in that Aston Martin. But Dean Riley has now blinked with 8.5 minutes on the pit stop window still to go. That will drop him outside of the top 10, so he pits from 7th position. But now Jan-Niklas Eberich has David Orhak for company.
He does indeed, and where he gets rid of one car, there's another car that will take its place, and it's that number 13 car. You are not going to miss that Bentley if it's in your rear view mirrors going in towards the first turn for another time, the 7th time in this race so far, with 18 minutes left on the clock. Eberich once again holding on to 6th place, but it's all about working out what the drivers around you, what their strategies are for the race. Yes, refueling is mandatory, but in a race like this with 35 degrees being the track temperature, do you go for a tyre change, or do you just try and hang on to these same set of tyres and try and hope that the shorter pit stop you have will pay dividends in the end in the sprint race?
Yeah, I think tyre changes we could more than likely see in our feature race a little bit later on, Kieran, if I'm completely honest. Goli Kunsabo is pitted, Tom McEwing is pitted, Hamada Arquizi and Luke Whitehead. I think this looks to be a bit of a stalemate at the moment, because they're coming through the Michael Schumacher S's, 7 minutes and 20 on the pit stop window to go. So they could have a pretty good run of pace and maybe be on the same kind of strategy to stay at the front of the field, but Arquizi got the jump on Whitehead early doors, and effectively has started to just stretch the legs ever so slightly on that H2R Racing McLaren 720S. Jordan Grant-Smith, Oleg Kamenev, and there's Jan Heiler, who's battling away. That is now that's the car that got a bit of a collection courtesy of Medvedevas earlier on. That was Rizzo in the 25. So yeah, Rizzo rounding out the top 19. Jan Heiler in the 40 has already pitted. Luke Whitehead from P2 has blinked with just under 6.5 minutes to go, and so has Jan-Niklas Eberich, David Orhak, I think Hamada Arquizi. One of the biggest things about the fuel load in these cars, especially if it's mid-engined, rear-wheel drive, you put a bit more fuel in that car, you're going to have a bit more stability, because with that weight in that car, Kieran, that is going to help lower the centre of gravity, and that's going to help with the suspension setup, and maybe that's a bit more of a comfortable situation for Hamada Arquizi to be in.
Yes, and obviously now he'll have a lighter car than Luke Whitehead in this part of the stint, so he's got to use that to his advantage and maybe see if the overcut in this race will work out. As we saw Ashton Cox coming into the pits, he's got to serve that 5-second penalty as awarded by the stewards for an unsafe rejoin. Eberich then rejoins ahead of the Aston Martin, but only just there. The number 22 of Dean Riley having to face the back of the 299 Lexus DJ racing car of Jan-Niklas Eberich. So he rejoins in 12th place. Now he's got it all to do to try and keep another car behind him. This time it's the Aston Martin.
Yeah, and then you also got his good buddy David Orhak just behind as well. So we've got 5.25 minutes and with of the pit stop window remaining. And what's more, in about 7 seconds time, the pit stop window will be halfway done and will be halfway through the race. So 15 minutes down, 15 to go. And at the moment, Hamada Arquizi currently on lap number 8 of this race and has decided to stay out. So Arquizi could press the envelope out maybe for another 2 laps before he needs to pit. As Jordan Grant-Smith, the 120 from GS Racing, pits from second on the road in the 911 991.2 GT3R. And that means Oleg Kamenev from Funny Formula 1 Bats and Jonathan Seville from Pulse Sim Sport round at the top 3. So at the moment it's a McLaren that leads from an Aston and an Aston, and there's a bit of argy-bargy going on here. Riley between Orhak, and that is going through into Advan. I don't think anyone wants any Bentleys in their rearview mirror going through that corner. But Orhak switches to the right-hand side. Riley cuts the door off, going through into the NGK chicane. and neither of them overcooked it. Oh my goodness me. That just goes to show how quickly things can change. 3 minutes and 56 seconds on the pit stop window remaining. And just ahead of them, well, the funny thing is, you've got Jan-Niklas Ebrich in the 299 Lexus ahead of Dean Riley and David Ohak, but closing in on behind them is the number 59 Aston Martin of Germany's Simon Speth.
Yes, Tom Otti there in the racing green boy Aston Martin. The number 70 has Arturas Medvedevas right behind in the Ferrari, the sole Ferrari in this field as they now make their way on towards the NGK chicane. I was actually going to say, David Ohak then wanted to go round the outside of the Aston Martin ahead of him, going through Vorstein. And it's not often you see that, and it's not often you see a Bentley that far wide willingly, at the very least. But both drivers giving each other the respect there and managing to hold firm. So the top 8 now in our field, all yet to stop. That's that orange bar with the number 1 in it, means they still have to make a mandatory stop. Meanwhile, Andrea Rizzo has a stop and go penalty of 30 seconds. We haven't heard anything from the steward, so what we can assume is that's going to be track limit violations. Hamada Akizi into the pits.
Now, one interesting thing, we wanted some classic GT3 machinery. Well, I'm really, really pleased to see that we just saw on that car, the number 70 Aston Martin of Tom Otti, he's gone for the big boy. He's gone for the V12, the old school Aston Martin. Now that is some GT3 pornography right there and then, because it's one of the most successful cars before it was retired and replaced by the Vantage V8 GT3. It's the most successful car in British GT history in terms of success rates, championships, and race victories and pole positions. But you can see there, just this V12 just absolutely on song. Going up the gears, now heading into the Schumacher S's. 4th gear. Oh, and Tom Otti has to lift because the V12 is not as compliant as the V8, but we are fast approaching the conclusion of the first pit stop window here in this first of 2 races. We've got a 60-minute feature race coming up, but it is still all to play for. And Oleg Kamenev, Simon Crane, Michael Peresada and Neville in the 321 have yet to pit. They've got 90 seconds to get into that pit stop window, and I think I just saw someone dive in, but Andrea Rizzo, there is Miles Dixon, so he's out. And in the clearers, that is one of the McLarens. That is McEwing in the 89 720S. Miles Dixon just comes out in front, 17th. But yeah, time's fast ticking away. So Kamenev, Crane, Peresada and Neville, they will receive a 130-second time penalty through the system software if they don't pit in time. And Kamenev, I think, has timed it to absolute perfection, because it could be that the Aston Martin might dive into the pit lane. If he goes past the start-finish line, he's in trouble. No, he's in the pits. So nice and safe for Kamenev there.
Yeah, and Adam Chick as well will just about make it in the not fast but furious Audi. As you can see, one driver furiously flashing the lights. That looked like the Audi of Luke Whitehead. Speaking of which, have a look at those standings, because Hamada Akizi is rejoined in 4th place. It will be the net lead of this race. But look at Luke Whitehead. He's had Grant Smith rejoin ahead of him. So that's not worked at all, and Grant Smith with the overcut has managed to jump ahead of Luke Whitehead as they now make their way across the start-finish line. 10 minutes to go. That's not what Luke Whitehead had on his script at the very least. He's going to be battling away for 2nd place between himself and Jordan Grant Smith.
Yep, so pit stop window closes, 2/3 down, 1/3 to go in the sprint race here, and Luke Whitehead finds himself behind Jordan Grant Smith. So now these drivers will be pushing to the bitter end, and Hamada Akizi is will be in the de facto lead. And there is the 404 from Edgetoire Racing, running in the very, very lovely black with orange accents, the papaya orange, with a little bit of Richard Mille being mentioned on there as well. Richard Mille, actually current sponsors of the McLaren Formula One team. He'll be racing at Baku for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix this weekend. Tom Otti in the old school V12 Vantage crosses the line. He's still ahead of Medvedevas from Lithuania. Rizzo rounds out the top 23, but there is a battle going on, and it's between Michael Peresada, and that is Gergely Kunsabo in the 38, just up ahead, and they are just making their way down towards Dunlop. 8 minutes and 43 seconds to go. We're on lap number 11. Hamada Erquizi leads Jordan Grant-Smith by just over 5 seconds. Jan-Niklas Ebrich battling away once again with SimSport Solutions' Dean Riley for 6th position as they hurtle their way through Advan. Oleg Kamenev in the 354 just up ahead. Jonathan Seville from Pulse SimSport rounds out the top 4 in the 97 Aston Martin. As Riley goes off track big time, coming out of the NGK chicane, and that could have allowed David Ohak to close in on the 22 Aston Martin, but a good save there from Dean Riley.
Yeah, just about, and he's kept the position as well. There's Gergely Kunsabo, then the Hungarian 14th place in the M2 competition. Aston Martin, meanwhile, Akizi builds his lead at the top of the field, 5.2 seconds between himself and Jordan Grant-Smith. Grant-Smith, meanwhile, has, full of his mirrors, the Audi of Luke Whitehead, wanting to try and find a way past. And for Luke Whitehead, for him, for his own personal experience, for pole position, down in 3rd place at the moment, he will be, well, livid wouldn't be the word for it, Alex.
I think you're completely right there, Kieran. I think there will be some, as our good friend Jake Sperry would always say, a bit of industrial language would be probably a good terminology to use in this particular vernacular. But, to be honest with you, now, hang on a second. There's one interesting development here. Look at the top of the times. There is no Hamada Erquizi. What's happened? Has he had a disconnect?
Oh, that's huge. If that's the case, if Hamada Erquizi, because this has happened before to poor Erquizi, who's been leading a World Pro Racing race and then disconnected from the race. If that is then the case, Jordan Grant-Smith has become our de facto leader. And I think Luke Whitehead, as his ears and nose, has just perked up a little bit more, because now he realises there's not the battle for 2nd place anymore. This is the battle for the lead.
Yeah, so now the gloves are really off as, Jordan Grant-Smith does exactly what Dean Riley did a couple of laps ago. Went wide, he literally hustled his way through. Now he's trying to break the toe for Luke Whitehead. The gap was 0.5, it's now 0.37. So Luke Whitehead has that fire reignited in that belly of his as Jan-Niklas Ebrich is now battling away what is going to be for 5th position. And Harry Spears, absolutely textbook what you said there, Harry. What a shame. It was a shame because Hamada Erquizi was really, really lighting things up. But now it's Luke Whitehead's turn to do such a thing as they come out of the Mercedes arena. Both the Audi and the Porsche. They rev quite high. Well, actually, the Audi is the 2nd highest revving car out of this field. The Porsche, interestingly enough, on its 4-litre flat-6 boxer engine that produces 542 brake horsepower, 525 newton-meters of torque, revs to an incredible 9,325 RPM. That is half a thousand RPM higher than the Audi.
Doesn't it make a good racket as well as they make their way through the Michael Schumacher S, and Luke Whitehead right on the tail of Jordan Grant-Smith. And, well, those that were saying in the chat before this race on YouTube at the very least, Jordan Grant-Smith with this win, well, 5 minutes to go, that could very well come true.
But in the 5 minutes, I hate to say it, but there's every possibility that it could go his way or it could go the other way. You just don't know. Motorsport has that unpredictability factor, and in something where you're battling for prizes like an Alloy Elite 2 keyboard, a Cloud Alpha 5 number 5 headset, and a Pulsefire Haste mouse from HyperX, our sponsors here at the HyperX Open Series, when you're getting state-of-the-art equipment, you will battle for it. You will leave no stone unturned. You will be elbows out, give no quarter. And speaking of giving no quarter, Simon Crane is absolutely putting the frighteners on GT Omega RPM Esports. Dean Vella for 9th position, and Alex Lafe is just behind. But here is the battle between Dean Riley And Jan-Niklas Ebrich, Riley sends it round the outside of the Lexus, going through into the Haughagen, and will he make it through going into the Mercedes arena? No, they tangle! Oh, but what a slide, and all of a sudden Ebrich catches it, but they make contact again. Oh my goodness me, that was the slightest of touches between Ebrich and Riley. It was left front on right rear, and then right front on left rear, and all of a sudden Ebrich went sideways, and the secondary part of contact, I think, which was probably not intentional from either party. We're going to leave that one to race control because we still have 3.5 minutes remaining. Dean Vella really coming in under the kibosh, courtesy of Crane from Pulse Sim Sport and TPC Sim Racing's Alex Leif.
Yeah, Simon Crane has come into this race and now he's on the money, running to rallying to try and get 9th place off of Dean Vella. So Jan-Niklas Ebrich now down to 6th place. He's got David Ohak behind him in the number 13 car. Simon Speth then in 8th place in the number 59 Aston Martin. You can see just at the tail of this queue then of cars as they still battle away for 5th place. Now heading our way in towards Michelin, now in towards Vorsteiner. This long right-hander with undulation changing every which way. Jordan Grant-Smith then still leading here in the sprint race. We still have the feature race to go. So an hour more of racing to come after this race. Jordan Grant-Smith leads the sprint race, of course, heading his way down the start-finish line. And you can see he's already trying to make sure that he breaks whatever toe he can to Luke Whitehead behind. He does not want any advantage going towards the Audi behind him.
Yeah, no, bit of a mistake there from Simon Crane, trying to hustle his way along with Dean Vella, and nearly falls into the clutches of Alex Leif. We've got 2.25 minutes remaining, so this plus one additional lap. We're on to lap number 15, and it is Grant-Smith, Whitehead, Seville, Kamenev, Riley, Ebrich, Ohak, Speth, Dean Vella on your screen, along with Simon Crane and Alex Leif, Jan Heiler, Gergely Kunsabo, Michael Peresada, Miles Dixon ran at the top 15. Don't forget, if you do not follow us on any social media channels, you can go to @World Pro Racing on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. And also, if you want to find out further information about our events, worldproracing.com/events, available on P. Oh, and as I say that, right, okay, there is a no further action being declared in the incident between Dean Riley and Jan-Niklas Ebrich, so effectively classed as a racing incident. But you know, at the end of the day, these things do happen. There is always that factor, Kieran, of a little bit of rubbing is racing.
Yeah, door-to-door action, we normally call it in GT racing, and the stewards have clearly felt there was no fault either way, or if there was fault, it was pretty much equal parts. So they've decided no further action is needed between the two drivers, and more accurately, no penalty is needed either for either driver. Simon Crane right on the limit of adhesion, so much so that he's slightly dropped away from Dean Vella. He's pushing, but maybe he's pushing a little bit too hard. You get that instance there as he gets onto the curb and really lights up those rear tyres as he heads his way through Michelin. So he's really trying to put the pressure on and really trying to get as much out of that car as he can. Maybe he's pushing a bit too hard though, because the mistakes are coming through. Final lap of this race has just begun.
Yeah, so it's going to be a case of can Jordan Grant-Smith hang on to it, or will Luke Whitehead fire that warning shot that actually becomes the salvo round that ends this race and secures the 408 from H2R Racing, the first victory of the evening. As they head out of the Mercedes arena, Jordan Grant-Smith has kept himself in the right place at the right time, out of the Mercedes arena, down the run through into Valvoline before Ford. Ford actually very much steeped in, well, its main European headquarters is actually based about 6 hours east of this circuit over at Cologne, or Köln as they say in Germany, but the timer has struck 0 and we are probably the best part of well over half a lap still to go before we have our first checkered flag of the evening. And it has been pretty much a case of just putting your car exactly where you need to, make those rear haunches of that 911 GT3R as wide as possible by Jordan Grant-Smith. But Luke Whitehead trying to do what he can, but we've only got a handful of corners and he's got to try and do something, but he's got to do it nice and cleanly, because otherwise he'll fall foul of race control. we head down through Advan, the right-hand sweeper for the final time of asking. Lap 16 here at the HyperX Open Series sprint race here at the Nürburgring. Jordan Grant-Smith on the anchors into the NGK chicane. Luke Whitehead trying to close him down. One more corner remains, and Luke Whitehead looked, but it wasn't enough. Out of the final corner, it's going to be the victory. Jordan Grant-Smith takes the victory, and it's going to be 0.3 of a second ahead of Luke Whitehead, our pole sitter. Jonathan Seville rounds out the top 3 as the thunder of Aston Martin roars across the finish line. Same for Oleg Kamenev in the 354. Make that 3 Astons in the top 5, courtesy of SimSport Solutions. Dean Riley, Jan-Niklas Ebrich rounds out the top 6. David O'Hack in 7th ahead of Simon Speth, Dean Vella. Simon Crane rounds out the top 10 ahead of Alex Leif. But the biggest news in the first race was that whilst leading, Hermada Erquizi had a server disconnect, and that changed everything here tonight at the Nürburgring.
Yeah, he looked comfortable, he looked in control, built that gap of over 5.5 seconds to this pair here. And unfortunately, he suffered that disconnect, and he'll get absolutely nothing for the hard work he put in. For Jordan Grant-Smith, though, well, he made the overcut work on Luke Whitehead, and at the end of the day, that was the pit strategy, that was the move that won the race for the GS Racing driver. He grabs the first full points of the evening, and I've got great news for you. If you enjoyed that, we've got a race double that length coming up in just a few short minutes.
Yeah, so there we go. And now the drivers have a slight respite as they make their way towards the pit lane. They've got to do a full slow-down lap here at the Nürburgring. It's part and parcel of normal real-life racing. I should know, I've commentated my fair share on it, as has Kieran, in real life at circuits, not just domestically, but also overseas as well. But there you go. Jordan Grant-Smith takes 18 points. Luke Whitehead, he takes 15. And then also our third place driver takes 13 points. But we have one more race to go to crown our winner for event 3 of the HyperX Open Series live here on World Pro Racing. We're going to go to a brief commercial break, and we'll be back in just a couple of moments' time. Welcome back once again to the HyperX Open Series event number 3, being held at the fantastic Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit here on World Pro Racing. Alex Goldschmidt and Kieran McGinley back with you once more, and it is our feature of tonight's festivities, the 60-minute feature race, which will crown our event winner, and with it will come a fantastic HyperX keyboard. Second place will we'll have quite a lot to talk about. So it'll be the Alloy Elite 2 keyboard for the winner, a Cloud Alpha 5 headset for our runner-up, and a Pulsefire Haste mouse for the final driver on the rostrum. And at the moment, with regards to the points coming into this, it is Jordan Grant-Smith that has 18 to his credit, ahead of Luke Whitehead. Jonathan Seville on 13, then it's Oleg Kamenev and Dean Riley on 12 and 11 respectively. Now we have that added caveat here, Kieran, of that if you are first on the road and you scored a podium in the previous race, you get docked 3 points towards your cumulative score. 2 points for second and a point for first. This is where things get rather interesting, don't they?
They do, and I think this refers to the previous event, because I said exactly what you said there, and I was quickly corrected. I think it's for the previous event. So chances are, if the drivers have won one of these prizes before, they're going to be docked one of those points, or one of those sets of points. So for someone like Jordan Grant-Smith, this is going to be a prime opportunity for him to get that fantastic prizes as offered by HyperX. So we leave the point scoring to the guys behind the scenes. They know exactly what's going on, and they'll tell us who our top 3 will be. I've never been good at points anyway, Alex, so that's a plus for me.
Unfortunately, when I do karting championships and you're commentating on the final round of the season, you have to react quickly, and as long as things are not too complex on the scoring side, it's pretty good. But we do have a noticeable absence here, unfortunately, due to a technical issue. No Hamada Erquizi, so it's going to be Whitehead and Grant Smith on the front row, Seville and Riley row 2, Kamenev and Ebrich, that's row 3, Dean Vella and Simon Speth row 4, David Ohak and Miles Dixon row 5, and completing the top 10 then it's Crane, Heiler, Leaf, Cox, Kuhn Sabo, and people will be hopefully wondering if he's going to get into P1 this time. Well, we'll find out. Sheldon Muscat, Michael Peresada, Arturas Medvedevas. Then we've also got Marcin Adamczyk, who actually runs under X Neville as his gamer tag, Tom Otti, Tom McEwing, and Andrea Rizzo. That is your 22 strong grid. And as they say, double the time, double the fun. It's 60 minutes on the clock here at the HyperX Open Series, event number 3 here at the Nürburgring. And what's more, it's going to be interesting here who's going to get the jump. Now, my money here going into the Hagen on this particular occasion, we could see a repeat, but if Jordan Grant-Smith positions that car, that Porsche, correctly, Kieran, he could get the run on Whitehead going through the Mercedes arena if he nails it perfectly. His start has to be textbook.
It really, really does, and he'll be hoping that it is textbook from the off. He's got a great chance here of wrapping up round number 3 of the HyperX Open Series. Of course, we say round number 3, they're not associated, the rounds, it's just the rounds that we do them in order. For example, the 4th event of the HyperX Open Series happens at Misano next month on the 2nd of July. So if you fancy your chances here, there might just be a couple of spaces. The only problem is it's a very, very popular series. If not, come and watch us then on the 2nd of July, and we'll possibly shout your name over the announcement here. But yes, Grant Smith is in a good position to try and take advantage of that first place. We saw in the last race, in the sprint race, 5 drivers got a drive-through penalty for starting infringements. Let's hope we have fewer than that this time around.
Yes, indeed. We are gearing things up. So at the moment, Jordan Grant-Smith is in prime position to get the opportunity to go for the victory, and with it we'll get a fantastic prize in the form of an Alloy Elite keyboard, 2 keyboard, courtesy of HyperX, the title sponsor of the HyperX Open Series, broadcasted live and exclusively here on World Pro Racing. A big thank you to those watching on the respective World Pro Racing streams on Facebook, Twitch and YouTube, and also to our viewers at TVM Sports, Motorsport.tv and the Esports Television Network. Right, we're under Sardo's orders once again. And it's going to be down to Whitehead and Grant Smith that will control the pace. So, Whitehead, Grant Smith, Seville, Riley, Kamenev, Ebrich, Vela, Speth, Ohak and Dixon. That is your top 10. Out of Coca-Cola, they start to filter their way through. As now, they will start to build the pace and accelerate up to full racing speed. And when we're at that point, when the race control lets them go,
Green light. Go, go, go.
green, 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 we're off and away, and it's a good start this time. Jordan Grant Smith got the whole shot on Luke Whitehead. Looks like there might have been a little bit of an incident further back, but Whitehead could have the inside run as it's nearly 4 abreast going into the Haken, and Jan Niklas Ebrich trying to go around the outside of Dean Riley, nearly gets shoved wide. Jonathan Seville, oh, Ebrich goes up the inside. Kamenev trying to get stuck in there too, but Luke Whitehead has already got in there. And we've had an incident, Peresada already a drive-through penalty, Jan Heiler and also Sheldon Muscat. Oh, and Miles Dixon already in the pits. So Muscat out, Dixon out. They've already returned to garage. And there's more door banging down the order, going in about 4th or 5th position with the likes of Seville, Riley, Kamenev, Ebrich. Dean Vella's got his hands full with Simon Speth and David Ohak for 7th position. Simon Crane will round out the top 10, but there is no love lost here between Luke Whitehead and Jordan Grant Smith. And it looks like Kamenev has already gotten through into there. And right, looks like we might have had a server issue there, which is why it's showing session start. So it looks like we have had a server malfunction. So we are doing a full restart according to it's been declared a red flag. So we had a multi-car incident that caused a red flag. So good deference there by race director Adrian Figalo for calling a red flag. So we will do a full restart. And this gives the drivers to sort of refocus again, because you make a mistake once here, Kieran. You make it twice, it's like once bitten, twice shy, as the old adage goes.
Absolutely. It gives the drivers a second bite of the cherry to sort of refocus, as you said, and recalibrate that, because it was a bit of a clumsy start from some drivers in that midfield, especially when you're going down the start for this straight. That's one of the last places you expect a pile-up to actually happen. So understandably, the session is red flagged, the race is red flagged, and we will start again a full race restart with everyone in their proper grid position. So no doubt maybe a lecturing from Adrian Figallo later down the line, but for now the focus is on regridding and getting this race back underway once again.
Yeah, so we'll see whether we get that lightning start from Jordan Grant Smith again, but Luke Whitehead had already got things pretty much leveled up. Now, I've got a quick question for you, Kieran. Who are previous winners here on the HyperX Open Series in the previous rounds at both Monza and Silverstone?
Well, now you're casting my mind back. I know.
I've got look. This is my first time doing this, and to be honest, it's been a real joy working alongside you again since the last time we did a Mount Panorama. But the thing is that this is the first red flag that we've had on ACC here at World Pro Racing. That's quite a statistic when you think about it, but there are going to be some drivers that are going to be thinking, well, I've got to really look at how I position my car. Am I going to cause a bit of a mishap for myself, but not just myself, but also drivers on the circuit? But the biggest thing is that this added caveat of if they've gone on the podium for a previous event, that to me says that, I think you said this earlier, Jordan Grant Smith has a brilliant opportunity. If he wins the second race, he's got that keyboard well and truly in his grasp when it gets expressed out to him.
Yes, absolutely, and plenty of drivers have been showing off their HyperX kit in the Discord. And of course, if you want to be one of those, if you fancy your chances of winning that gear, then the HyperX Open Series is for you. And as you can see, or as we've previously alluded to, that if you get that prize in the first place, there is a sort of success penalty that you have, just so it gives other drivers an opportunity to win that gear as well. We've had 2 different winners so far. I do believe Luke Whitehead has been a previous winner of the HyperX Open Series so far, but I can confirm it is 2 different winners for 2 rounds so far. Jordan Grant Smith has never won the HyperX Open Series. This is his best chance of winning that keyboard from HyperX. it'll be his best chance. Whether he can get this over the line, that's a different question entirely.
Yeah. So double the time, double the difficulty is probably what I'm going to use as another caveat here of what we've got. Don't forget, there is plenty of content coming up on World Pro Racing, and that actually starts from next week onwards. Tuesday the 8th, the Duo Series returns, and it heads to the Nürburgring. Still plenty of spaces available, and what's more, it's not a 90-minute race. Oh, no, 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 no. We've doubled the difficulty on that. It's 3 hours of the Nürburgring. And then we have the final round of the Alpine GT4 Championship, which currently has the likes of Alex Trejon and Alessio Spinelli battling for the title at Road America this coming Wednesday for the 5th and final round of the season. The AMD GT4 Championship is coming, well, effectively in just 6 days' time, heads to Kyalami for its next round. That'll be round 3 of the season. And then again, is it me or is it? Yeah, it looks like Kyalami seems to be a bit of a flavour of the week apparently, because it's going to be round 4. It's going to be Monza on Friday next week for the penultimate round of the World Pro Racing Season 3 of the Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series, with round 5 set to take place in 2 weeks' time at Bathurst on the 18th of June. And there we have our refreshed grid. So they do say that sometimes lightning does strike twice, but I'm hoping that's not going to happen tonight here, Kieran, because they're getting underway with the formation lap.
Yeah, I've got my fingers crossed here, Alex, that hopefully we don't see that happen again, and hopefully a cleaner start down towards turn 1. It's a very tricky corner at the best of times, is that first braking zone, let alone you're throwing 22 cars at it all at once, all trying to vie to get that position. And when you've got these prizes on the line, sometimes those instances are going to happen. Weirdly enough, though, it happened in the midfield, so maybe just a bit of a cluster. Normally that happens when someone doesn't get a great start or doesn't launch or misses a gear. That's where you normally get the Constantina effect in the midfield. That's possibly why we saw that incident there. We also saw the incident going in towards the Mercedes arena on Jan-Niklas Erbrich trying to move up the inside, making contact. So that made things slightly worse as well. Hopefully this time, though, lightning, as you say, doesn't strike twice, Alex. It never normally does, and I'll be keeping my fingers crossed, making sure it doesn't again.
I've got fingers, toes, arms, legs, muscles crossed right about now here, Kieran, because we've got another full formation lap. So on offer here tonight on the third event of the HyperX Open Series here on World Pro Racing. A big thank you to everyone joining us. If you haven't done already, please make sure, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and also the notification bell. So for the winner here at the Nürburgring, first place picks up a HyperX Alloy Elite 2 keyboard, the runner-up a HyperX Cloud Alpha S headset, and third, the final step on the rostrum, HyperX Pulse Fire Haste mouse. Lots of great gear, but with double the length of the previous race, it's going to be double the difficulty, it is going to be double the concentration, and it's going to be double the adrenaline as the drivers now make their way through in towards the final few parts of the circuit. They'll now be heading into Michelin, the left-hander, which will then take them to the right-hander here at Warsteiner. So here is the starting grid. Whitehead from Grant Smith on the front row. Seville and Riley, row 2. Kamenev and Ebrich, row 3. Vella and Speth, row 4. Ohak and Dixon complete the top 10. Then it's Crane in the 53 Audi in 11th. Hyla in the 40 McLaren. Leif in the 302 Nissan. Cox in the 158 Audi. Then it's Kunsabo, Muscat, Pereseda, Medvedevas. Then we got Adamczyk, Otti, McEwing, and last but by certainly no means least, the 25 Lexus of Andrea Rizzo. So, if we reset things, balance the ledger if you will. 1 hour on the clock. And now it is down to Whitehead and Grant Smith to control the pace. We saw a good start from Whitehead. He got the jump on Grant Smith, who got the power down rather nicely in the Porsche on the first time of asking, but the red flag has reset the ledger. Right, out to the final corner. 60 minutes of GT3 action here at the World Pro Racing HyperX Open Series at the Nürburgring, in what the place is really my second home in Germany. We wait with bated breath, and it is green flag racing all the way down to the Haughaken, and this time Luke Whitehead gets a better start. Seville gets a good start on Riley, and that's for third and fourth, and Jan-Niklas Everich trying to do the same tactic as we saw in the first start, and he gets a bit of a turn. Well, he gets a little bit of a contact with Dean Riley, but that was the slightest of nudges. And then Jan-Niklas Everich up the inside of Kamenev, going through the second part of the Mercedes arena, and gets up the inside. Does he get the position? For fourth, I think he's going to hang Kamenev out wide, and that could allow Dean Riley to get round the outside, coming out of the Mercedes arena. David Ohak ahead of one of the McLarens. There's Michael Pereseda now alongside with Andrea Rizzo. But Luke Whitehead is trying to pull away. Simon Speth dropped down the order. He's behind Ashton Cox, and then he's in the middle between him and Gergely Kunsaba. Tom Otti up the inside of Tom McEwing. That's for 17th position. As now they filter their way down through Ford into Dunlop for the first time of asking. A much, much cleaner start from the field, but no drive-through penalties assigned by the system software here on Assetto Corsa Competizione. But Luke Whitehead ahead by nearly 0.4 of a second. Now there's been a bit of a moment. That was Ashton Cox that was off the track, and I think he's been collected by another car. He's been punted off the circuit, exit stage left. The Shadow Realm has welcomed one unwilling participant, but Luke Whitehead brings them through into Advan as we reach the conclusion of lap 1, and Gergely Kunsabo, I think, was the other unsighted. Look at that clamshell bonnet there, Kieran. It's slightly out of alignment.
It is, it's very slightly, so he's run into trouble somewhere. Has he run into Ashton Cox? We'll have to wait and see if we can get a replay on that one. But talk about the start. Second time really is the charm. We were 4 wide at the apex on the very first lap in the midfield. Meanwhile, Jordan Grant-Smith fancies his chances on Luke Whitehead. Didn't quite get the run out of Coca-Cola that he wanted, and now tucks into the slipstream. Meanwhile, Jonathan Seville fancies his chances for second place now, breaking down in towards Haughaken. Then as Jordan Grant-Smith grabs the inside line and holds on to second place. He's got to be careful about doing that because he might lose touch with Luke Whitehead, as there is Tom Otti down the inside of the Lithuanian of Arturas Medvedevas as he now moves into 14th place. Medvedevas trying to hang it round the outside through the first part of the Mercedes arena, but it's lost him a little bit of time here to Tom McEwing right behind.
Yep, Jan-Niklas Everich ahead of Oli Kamenev, but Kamenev looking towards the inside, going into the next left-hander, which was at Valvoline, now through into Ford, and then the run down towards Dunlop. It's Lexus versus Aston Martin, 5.4 litre naturally aspirated V8. Right, okay, let's have a look at this replay. Now this is Gergely Kunsabo, who's right behind Simon Speth. Oh no, he's going to get a tag. I think he's, well, no, he slows, and then all of a sudden, okay, let's just keep watching here. There's Tom McEwing, and he's going to banzai up the inside and turn the Hungarian round, and literally it puts him into a bit of a tank slapper situation. So Tom McEwing, that was all his own fault, but it looked like Ashton Cox just lost the back end of that Audi going through the Schumacher S's all on his own.
Yeah, that did look like it from that angle, didn't it? As I'm still trying to figure out how the driver behind him, Shimon Speth, actually managed to avoid the exit stage left car of Ashton Cox. I'm still trying to figure it out in my head. He is certainly, that woke him up if that didn't already in this race. He's currently in 13th place. It looked like he didn't even get a scratch on that car in that one, so he's made it through. And as you say, Kunsabo looks like he then went into the back of Shimon Speth. Then obviously that reaction time is so instant there. It's almost impossible for him to react to that, the Hungarian, and then caught up in an instant with Tom McEwing going in towards the Michelin curve. No doubt the stewards will want to have another look at that one.
Yep. So, Jan Heiler being chased down by Sheldon Scott Muscat. And there is Alex Leif from TPC Sim Racing. And also, Simon Speth. Now, this is the battle for 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th. There's, Muscat looking to go for a bit of outside action. Round the outside, in the words of Eminem, goes Sheldon Scott Muscat. And he gets a little bit of a tag. And that has allowed Godzilla to strike right there and then. So, Alex Leif gets past Jan Heiler, but it allows Sheldon Muscat to complete the move up into what is P8. Now we go back to another replay. Now this is Ashton Cox. Now he was running in what was 14th position, so up into the Schumacher S's. Just watch closely. Back end steps out to the right, so full on Ingolstadt drift, and he couldn't keep that one held, and the back end stepped out to the right hand side, so it was from side to side there for the Audi. A real shame for Ashton Cox, as Peresada has ended up in the pit lane, it looks like. So no Miles Dixon. Could be that Peresada has maybe decided to call it a day, but Dean Vella is ahead of Dean Riley in the 22 Aston Martin from Sim Sports Solutions. I've just noticed in the YouTube chat, Harry Spears seems to be the most vocal of anybody at the minute. He says, I've got a feeling that Jordan might have a slightly mildly superb strategy up his sleeve. Well, we'll wait to see what happens, but at the moment, Mr. Spears, Jonathan Seville is actually closing in on Mr. Grant Smith for second position. So Porsche versus Aston Martin, and the Aston Martin in this particular situation isn't exactly an OP car, but he's got a hell of a lot more torque, close to 200 Newton meters more than that Porsche in front. But through the stability and the handling characteristics, the Porsche just seems to edge it in the twisty stuff.
Just about, and that's just about keeping him ahead of Jonathan Seville in that battle now for second place. And we saw in the last race, in the sprint race, that Grant Smith managed to get the overcut done on Luke Whitehead. No doubt he'll be thinking about the same again, because it brought him a mountain of time where Luke Whitehead then had to rejoin into traffic. It just gave Jordan Grant Smith that extra lap or two on a lighter car, a lighter fuel load, to really open up the gap and really exacerbate the damage that did to Luke Whitehead's gap between the two of them. And then Jordan Grant Smith managed to jump the position after the pit stops had been completed. There's David Ohak right onto the back of Andrea Rizzo in the Tech 1 Racing Lexus as they now make their way in through Valvoline and then down towards the Ford curb. But Rizzo runs a little deep, then David Ohak doesn't need a second invitation. He's right onto the tail, onto that rear diffuser of the Lexus ahead, as we then make our way down towards the Dunlop curve. Again, looking for an inside move. He's going to find it anyway. Pries that door open in towards the apex and takes away 17th place. I don't think he planned that move from the start, but he certainly managed to get the move stuck.
Well, David Ohak out of position from what we would customarily see. I think I just saw a Pirelli signboard actually on the circuit heading out of Advan. As Jordan Grant Smith and Jonathan Seville, they are still battling away. Luke Whitehead has started. He's a bit like a scalded cat on a hot tin roof, is Luke Whitehead. He's nearly 2.1 seconds up the road. That's complete another lap. Lap 4 we just completed, and the gap between him and Jordan Grant Smith just over 2 seconds. Jan-Niklas Eppich, Oleg Kamenev battling away still over P4, and then Vella and Riley battling away for what is 6th position. Just behind, and there's a further 4.2 seconds back to Sheldon Muscat. Simon Sperth ahead of Jan Heiler. We've got Simon Crane from Pulse Simsport just behind as Crane tries to go for the move up the inside, but can't get the job done and remains in 12th position. But whilst these three are battling, because Alex Lafe has gotten a bit further up the road, Simon Crane makes a very, very nice attempt on a switchback there on Jan Heiler. But Gergely Kunsabo, the man that everyone's hoping to go into P1, unfortunately, the Hungarian, languishing in P17 at the moment, and he has got David Ohak for close company.
Yeah, the Hungarian, a fan favourite among World Pro Racing, and has got David Ohak right behind, also a very familiar face around World Pro Racing. Two of these will battle hammer and tong, but we can see that the Bentley will want to try and find their way through. Yeah, Nicholas Erbrich then 4th place ahead of Kamenev at this moment in time as they make their way through the Michael Schumacher S and now ascending towards the left-hander of Michelin before it sets you up for Vorsteiner. As you can see, Kamenev then taking a slightly different line to the Lexus ahead of him. Look how much he closes in through Vorsteiner. Back onto the power we go, but that Lexus just edging away at the moment as they make their way flat out through Advan, then towards the NGK chicane. And we're just approaching the 10-minute mark into this race, and the track temperature has gone up yet another degree Celsius, up to 36 now. I wonder if the drivers in the back of their mind, surely a tyre change is needed for this race at the pit stop.
Yeah, I mean, we saw some drivers actually really pushing the envelope last time out, Kieran. And to be honest with you, I think that in a feature race, you've really got to, I think you've got to sort of chance it. There is always that old adage of risk versus reward, and that very much can be true. And especially if you've got a car that is shredding through its tyres. We've got what is it? Probably about 15 minutes or so until the pit stop window opens. So effectively, when 25 minutes have been completed, we'll see 35 minutes on the clock to go. Pit stop window will then open and then close with 25 minutes remaining. So it's always about tyre conservation. You don't necessarily need to be battling tooth and nail all the time, but if you keep things consistent, like Jan-Niklas Ebrich is doing here. And what I'm sensing from Oleg Kamenev is a little bit of early pent-up frustration in trying to get past the Lexus. So Ebrich is driving his race. He's not thinking about what is Kamenev going to do. He'll probably have an inkling as to what Kamenev is going to do, but it's just dependent on how Kamenev responds to Jan-Niklas Ebrich, and is Kamenev, being in that dirty air, I must add, is he actually losing a lot of degradation? Well, as I say that, he goes sideways through Michelin. That's not the mistake you want to make, because he was in that dirty buffeting air of that Lexus, and that unsettled the back end on the 354 of Oleg Kamenev. That was definitely a point proven right there and then, because if he was shredding his tyres, those tyres have just been tortured a little bit, and Kamenev will be ruining himself for making that mistake.
Yeah, but look how quickly he's then gone back onto the back of Jan-Niklas Ebrich then, as that's Simon Crane going a little bit sideways on the exit of the NGK chicane and really pushing hard and trying to find a way past Simon Speth then in the Garage 59 Aston Martin. Jordan Grant-Smith, though, has Jonathan Seville in his mirrors. Now as we make our way through the Mercedes arena, the race leader 3.3 seconds ahead of Jordan Grant-Smith. That's not what Grant-Smith wanted in this stage of the race. In the GS Racing Porsche, the number 120, under pressure from the number 97 Aston Martin of Jonathan Seville. There you can see just in the background then the battle for fourth place between Jan-Niklas Ebrich and Oleg Kamenev. That is for fourth place, and not much between them either. Dean Vella and Dean Riley fancy their chances at latching onto the back of that battle for fourth place. But at the moment then, Luke Whitehead, talk about a driver driving his own race. That's one there in towards the Dunlop curve. Again, once you get Luke Whitehead in a bit of clear air, he is just so consistent. He doesn't really need anybody around him. Some drivers, when they haven't got a driver up ahead, or if they've got a driver behind, will start to lose their focus and maybe let their lap times drop away a bit. Nothing of the sort for Luke Whitehead. He is on the pace 100% of the race, 100% of the time. And normally you find if Luke Whitehead finds himself in a bit of trouble or didn't have the race he wanted, he does normally come back a lot stronger the second time around, as we're seeing here right now.
Yeah, Jan-Niklas Ebrich still battling away with Oleg Kamenev. And now, whilst they've been battling, look who's joining the party. It was a duo, it's now going to be a quartet imminently, because you've got Dean Vella and Dean Riley. So we're fast approaching in just over a minute and a half time, the first quarter of this 60-minute feature race here on event 3 of the World Pro Racing HyperX Open Series here at the Nürburgring. And at the moment, Luke Whitehead on lap number 8 is leading Jordan Grant-Smith by just over 4 seconds. As Kamenev looking up the inside and tangles, and that has compromised him big time as he tries to go up the inside of Jan-Niklas Ebrich. I don't think the move was really on there, but what that has allowed is that Dean Vella is chasing down the 354. We ride on board with the McLaren, going through the second part of the Mercedes arena into the right. Great picture in picture as always from the broadcast crew. Oh, that was a catch and a half from Dean Vella, sideways out of the Mercedes arena right-hander, and he manages to save his neck by a whisker as they go through into Ford, having exited Valvoline. Now up the gears. Third gear, fourth gear, up to 5th, breaking down into what will be 2nd. A little bit of a wider carry of momentum through, as we're just getting information of a penalty. Oh, and it looks like Andrea Rizzo is in the wars again. 25 on 158. And that is Ashton Cox. Oh, and Andrea Rizzo, well, they do say that lightning does sometimes strike twice, as Jan-Niklas Ebrich has been beaten to the punch by Oleg Kamenev. And oh, gets a touch! And another touch! Oh, that was nearly 3rd time's the charm there from Dean Vella, and then it's 3rd time's the charm courtesy of Dean Riley. Jan-Niklas Ebrich is being thrown to the wolves right here. Oh my goodness me, and Dean Riley flashing his headlights at Jan-Niklas Ebrich saying, come on man, what on earth are you doing? But Andrea Rizzo takes a drive-through penalty for an unsafe rejoin and causing an avoidable collision. But that was close. Dean Vella, well, it was Kamenev that started things off. Dean Vella decided to then capitalise as, oh, more dramas, this time for Simon Crane coming out of the NGK chicana. He nearly straight-lined it and could have ended up in the barriers, battling away with Simon Speth as Dean Vella now being closed in on by the now fired up Jan-Niklas Ebrich.
Yeah, and you saw there coming in towards Advan then, just on the exit, that Jan-Niklas Ebrich knew he had to close the door, but where on earth was Dean Riley supposed to go in all of that? He had to take his line, he had to keep where he was. Jan Riley, meanwhile, is battling away with Tom Otte then as they make their way in through the Mercedes arena, and the Euro Racing team, McLaren of Jan Riley holding on to 12th place, and no doubt Alex Goldschmidt's favourite entry so far, the Tom Otte, the Aston Martin, the V12, screaming into life then in this battle for 12th.
Yeah, that rumbles and screams into life, but now we've got a bit of a rumble in the Eifel here at the Nürburgring, courtesy of Dean Riley, who's got the headlights ablaze, and he's doing the old scare tactic on Jan-Niklas Ebrich, and he's finding a window of opportunity that could have happened, and again, he's flashing the headlights, he's doing the old mental psych job on Jan-Niklas Ebrich, but here on home turf, Jan-Niklas Ebrich will not take that kind of behaviour from anybody. Tom McEwing going side by side with Gergely Kunsaba going through into Dunlop. That was never going to work in a month of Sundays.
No, not at all. And it just didn't look right going into there, did it? Kunsaba managing to hold on to position there, but I would want to see that as another angle, because that just didn't look right to me. I don't know quite how that happened. Tom Otte going around the outside of the Ferrari of Medvedevs. In fact, he's defending that position, and he had to get that millimetrically perfect because the front quarter panel of that Ferrari was so close to the rear of that Aston Martin. That was almost Tom Otte going around.
Yeah, it's been very lucky, but we go back to the battle for 2nd position. Jonathan Seville looking up the inside of Jordan Grant-Smith, gets the job done, or does he? Going through the Haken, it looks like one of the marker posts has been literally unceremoniously thrown onto the racing line as Simon Crane side by side with TPC Racing's Simon Speth going into the Haken. Crane now makes the move in the Audi on the Aston Martin, and then they go into the Mercedes arena. But some good moves there. So Jonathan Seville looks to be now in 2nd position. So Jordan Grant-Smith, that mildly superb strategy, in the words of Harry Spears, needs to be something of a surprise. And if it does help Jordan Grant-Smith to get that win ahead of Luke Whitehead, there is an opportunity that the Porsche could go for longer. Now you see the change for 2nd has happened. It was a textbook clean overtake by Jonathan Seville as we ride on board with the GS Racing 120 Porsche 911 991.2 GT3R through the Schumacher S's, building the speed, and then heading towards Michelin. 5th gear, now down to 2nd. 120 kph on the apex, wrestling with the back end as it tries to break traction as you're applying the throttle through Warsteiner. Now the real test of speed begins. Up to 4th, up to now 5th gear, and 238 kilometres now, 240 going into the braking zone, and Tom McEwing looks to have a drive-through penalty, possibly maybe for either track limits or an incident that will have been instigated by that would have been investigated by race control. We'll keep you posted on that one. But Jordan Grant-Smith still very sharp. Is that weapon of his, the Porsche 911, but Jonathan Seville in the Aston Martin here, Kieran, has done a really good job here. He's got himself effectively on count back. Well, no, not on count back. When you look at it, Seville actually finished third in the previous race. Grant Smith finished first. And Luke Whitehead, I think Luke Whitehead, he's just got to try and do enough to make sure that he stays on the top step. And if Grant Smith stays where he is, effectively, it could be close between him and Whitehead for the eventual win here, as we've got 40 minutes still to go on the clock. And we've got just under 5 minutes until the pit stop window opens for the second and final time of asking.
Yes, and with that top three, you've got to take into account of the success penalty, which won't apply for Jonathan Seville or Jordan Grant-Smith, but may actually apply for Luke Whitehead, as he is a previous winner of the HyperX Open Series. So just bear that in mind. It's not over for Kamenev yet. He could yet find himself into that top three. All will be revealed, though, in the next 39.5 minutes. There is Erbrich then once again reigniting that battle between himself and Dean Riley. And this is one that could boil over if these drivers aren't careful now, as we make our way in towards the left-hander at Michelin and towards Vorsteiner once again, trying to roll the car in as you go downhill as you apply the power. As you now try and make your way through Advan now, flat out through here. And Dean Riley once again flashing the lights here as these two rivals once again butt heads.
Yeah, Tom McEwing's drive-through, that is down to track limits, I'm afraid. System software caught that one out. So we now have Gergely Kunsabo will have to have a 5-second time penalty added for avoidable collision, and that was with Tom McEwing actually earlier on in this race. So when Kunsabo comes in for the pit stop, the car will not be worked on for 5 seconds, and then they can service the vehicle. Here's an interesting battle right here. Tom Otte in that rumbling, stumbling, bumbling Aston Martin V12 Vantage in the number 70, ahead of Jan Heiler in the 40 McLaren, and then Arturas Medvedevas from Lithuania rounding out the top 14, as all the Ferrari very, very late on the brakes right there. But still, at the moment, Luke Whitehead leading by just under 6.2 seconds, ahead of Jonathan Seville, Jordan Grant-Smith, Ole Kamenev, Dean Vella, and there is the battle for 6. It's still... This is like someone has started a barbecue here, Kieran, and they've added a bit of additional petrol on the flames, and it has quite literally spontaneously combusted between these two.
I mean, I'd love to say you took the words out of my mouth, but I just cannot come up with that better metaphor that you said there. But you're absolutely right. Erbrich here has got that hard-charging Dean Riley right behind him, and as I said before, it is threatening to boil over this battle for 6th place. And look at that behind. Sheldon Muscat has got the front row seat, that popcorn view of this battle for 6th, and he will be absolutely ready to take advantage of anything that falls awry of these two drivers. Flat out they go through Advan, now ascending their way towards the NGK chicane, and you see Dean Riley just trying to fill the mirrors of the Lexus then as they file their way through in towards the final corner at the Coca-Cola curve. All about your exit here, all about hitting the apex and trying to get the power down. Don't want to lose too much momentum out of there. Erbrich then has got to be careful for Dean Riley. He'll try and use the toe down the start-finish straight and then down towards the very first corner at Horghaken. But yeah, you can see there, Dean Riley not close enough this time around to have a go, but he can certainly have a very nice close view of that rear splitter of the Lexus.
If it was a boxing match, it'd be Lennox Lewis versus Evander Holyfield between these two right now. But, as you said, Sheldon Muscat is the one that's got the popcorn in his lap, just waiting for things to transpire. But good to see that Sheldon, despite what happened in race 1 earlier on, as we ride on board with the number 63, well, just looking at from previously, Sheldon actually finished outside of the top 15, so to now be in the top 8 is a pretty good response. And in terms of his qualifying, Sheldon actually started in what would have been P17, so he's been like a bit like the old rat up a drain pipe. He's actually made up 9 places in the last just under 25 minutes, but we are 30 seconds away from our second mandatory pit stop. So we had a 10-minute pit stop window in the sprint race. We've got a 10-minute mandatory pit stop here in the feature race. As this trio making their way through Warsteiner and now down in towards Advan. And that Pirelli board still sitting on the outside of the racing line. Someone decided to take it for a bit of a ride, as now pit stop window officially open for the feature races. Jan-Niklas Ebrich still holding on, and look, Riley and Muscat have got themselves out of dirty air and into the pit lane.
They have indeed, and they were waiting for their engineer to call that pit window open, and they dived into the pit lane. Almost like they backed out for a second there as well. Just let off the throttle a little bit. Let that counter camp down to when the pit window opens. They will be the first two drivers into the pits. So Luke Whitehead then, there you can see 7.1 seconds ahead of Jonathan Serville. And really, since lap number 2 in this race, it's going all his way at the moment. He's just got to make sure he's not caught out at the pit window again, because although he has this lead, depending on when he pits and how many other drivers pit around him, he could rejoin in traffic, and all this hard work would have been undone. He'll be looking and seeing really where people are, how pit stops are going, how many need to make their stop. He might try and go as long as possible into this race to make sure he's one of the last to stop.
Yeah, very true. And Luke Whitehead now has nearly a 7.5 second advantage over Jonathan Serville. So already we're seeing a bit of green in that column just by the numbers. So Riley has pitted, Muscat has pitted, Medvedevas has also pitted, Ohak, Kunsabo and Ashton Cox, they are currently in pit lane, so refueling is mandatory. And with 8.5 minutes still to go on the pit stop window before it closes for this particular race itself, these drivers now will have a lot going for them, but also they'll have to push the limits of adhesion and also the limits of endurance as well, because it isn't easy doing a 15-minute free practice session, a 15-minute qualifying session, a 30-minute sprint race and a 60-minute feature race, and then also all the practicing leading up into this race. So they have spent plenty of hours behind the wheel of their sim, and at the moment Tom McEwing and Andrea Rizzo out of the driver's position from 13th to 20th have yet to take their mandatory pit stop. Alex Leif and Simon Speth have decided to do so just before the 7.5 minute remaining mark on the pit stop window, but Jonathan Serville still ahead of Jordan Grant-Smith, with Luke Whitehead well and truly in another district here in Germany.
Absolutely. And I have to wonder as well that what goes through a driver's mind at a red flag. We've had to have basically 3 starts for drivers here, which is one more than they were expecting. So I wonder what goes through their minds when they have to prepare for that race start, for the feature race, only for it to be red flagged around about, well, less than 60 seconds in due to that pile up at the start finish straight, to then have to prepare themselves once again to go racing again. It just looks like here Luke Whitehead is just in his own field right now. He's just on his own. He's got himself to himself, and this is Luke Whitehead. When he's on his own, he can pump in those lap times consistently as well. Not only is he quick, he's consistent, and it's very rare to see him make a mistake when he's leading by this much of a margin as he makes his way now in towards the NGK chicane. Does he decide to come into the pits this time around? No, he's staying out for another lap through in towards the Coca-Cola curve, back onto the power then towards the start finish straight to complete the 15th lap of this race here in the Eiffel district. There is Tom McEwing, who is yet to make a stop right now, but he's got Arturas Medvedevas right behind, who has made his mandatory stop. The Lithuanian will be wanting to try and find a way past the McEwing Motorsport number 89 car, those neon green rims, making their way now down in towards the Dunlop curve. Of course, there's no reason for Tom McEwing to let the car through. They are technically racing, but you would think there on the different strategies, Tom McEwing might just let the Lithuanian through, because at the end of the day, it will cost Tom McEwing less time to do so rather than battle the way for this position.
I think you're spot on there. Dean Vellen now pits from 6th position, and that will drop him outside of the top 10. So that will mean that our top 8 drivers, that will be Whitehead, Seville, Grant Smith, Kamenev, Ebrich, Grant, Otti, and Adamczyk, Marcin Adamczyk. Those will be the drivers that still need to pit, and we've got just over 5¼ minutes of that pit stop window remaining. So Dean Vella will now start to make his way out of the pit lane, which he is starting to do. Luke Whitehead could put in maybe another couple of laps again. So he's running. So halfway through the race, halfway to go, just under 30 minutes remain, and also just under halfway to go on the official pit stop window. But it has been textbook driving from Luke Whitehead. He's just literally just doing exactly what he needs to do. He's running his own race. I love the bit above the rear diffuser on the back of that car. Dirty air.
That's just telling the driver behind what they're experiencing if they find themselves behind Luke Whitehead. Speaking of which, he comes into the pit lane, then the race leader of the feature race into the pit. Do any of the drivers around him react? No, Jonathan Seville stays out, hoping that there'll be an element of an overcut. It's worked before against Luke Whitehead at this very circuit. We saw that in the sprint race. Does lightning strike twice? Well, with a 7.5-second gap between Luke Whitehead and Jonathan Seville before Whitehead pitted, it is, well, very favourably on Luke Whitehead's side, this strategy.
Yeah, I think so. And we could wait and see. There is Whitehead. He's going into the pits. Let's just keep an eye on what happens here. Great picture-in-picture work by the broadcast crew. As always, the World Pro Racing headquarters in Malta. We'll be Justin and Nathan Mifsud doing that. So one of the interesting things is that that car from Luke Whitehead has not gone on the air jacks. No. So that means he's putting in fuel. So if it was going up on the up in the air, there would be a full set of new tyres going on there. But he must have confidence in that car to keep going. Or well, actually, he must. I think that was nigh on a 30-second stop. So I think Whitehead. I think he's put fresh boots on. We could see that in the respective times. But he now exits the pit lane, and we just have over 3 minutes of the pit stop window to go. Jonathan Seville, Jordan Grant Smith, Oleg Kamenev yet to pit, and it looks like Adamczyk has also done so. So then you've also got Jan-Niklas Ebrich and Tom McEwing, all still yet to pit, and they have got less than 3 minutes to do so. I think Seville on this next turnaround coming through into the NGK chicane. If I was Jonathan Seville from Pulse Simsport right now, I'd be looking to pit and try and get the undercut on Luke Whitehead.
Well, we'll see, because Luke Whitehead's rejoined in a really ideal position. Jonathan Seville into the pit lane. The Porsche, though, with Jordan Grant Smith, I think, has stayed out. He has. So he will go out for one more lap. So he'll have to pit in next lap. Otherwise, he'll be given that penalty at the end of the race. Luke Whitehead just about rejoined ahead of Dean Riley. There he is now, rising through the Schumacher S's. That is so important, because look at that clear air he's got between himself and the next car, which is actually a car that's going to be a lap down in Andrea Rizzo. So he's got so much clear air, so much of the track to himself. This is an ideal part for Luke Whitehead. Time that pit stop to perfection as well to get ahead of Dean Riley. Nothing to worry about with the traffic. It's just him now pushing on and trying to make sure that he rejoins ahead of Jonathan Seville. There you can see the picture-in-picture. Seville now leaving the box then and making his way down the pit lane. Obviously 50 kilometers per hour is a very slow pit speed limit, but he makes his way towards the pit lane exit and will rejoin very comfortably ahead of Luke Whitehead. Something tells me there weren't any tyres on that new car there. He's just gone for fuel, surely.
Oh, and Oleg Kamenev has just been given a drive-through penalty. Oh, now that has given insult to injury for the 354. Now that can be track limits abuse, unfortunately, and that can also be the fact that if you come out of the pits incorrectly and you cross that white line, oh dearie me. Now Grant Smith has gone for the real long. He's gone for the real long undercut. So Jordan Grant Smith will have timed this to absolute perfection of doing the massive undercut on everybody. And he's quite a considerable amount ahead of Luke Whitehead. Now he pulls into the pit lane with 30 seconds on the clock. That has changed that could change quite a few things. But now, Jonathan Seville making his way into Michelin. That thunderous roar of that throaty V8 4-litre twin turbo. So there is, we've got our picture-in-picture. Grant Smith in the pits. So pit stop window has officially closed. Everyone has made their mandatory pit stops. That was a quick pit stop and a half. Now, Jordan Grant Smith. Now, Seville's tyres are already up to temperature, up to full speed. Grant Smith has got to punch it coming out to the start. And now here we go. Jordan Grant Smith, the mildly superb strategy. No, I wouldn't call it mildly superb. I would say that was absolutely 100% spot on. Perfection personified by Jordan Grant Smith. And the gap that he has got over Jonathan Seville will be seen very shortly. Oleg Kamenev comes in to serve the drive-through penalty. But there you see Jordan Grant Smith. And he is a considerable distance ahead of Seville. Jan-Niklas Ebrich, interestingly enough, is ahead of Luke Whitehead. And Whitehead's down in 4th position. So Grant Smith has played the ultimate in the playbook. And I'm sure that Harry Spears, have you been whispering sweet nothings into Jordan Grant Smith's ears at this particular moment throughout the race? Because that was spot on the nose there, young sir. Grant Smith has a 10.4 second advantage. And now we have 23 and a half minutes on the clock. Now, I will say two things here, just to sort of counteract the balance, the scales, if you will, here, Kieran, that it could be absolutely brilliant, or it could be that something might happen that upsets the apple cart. I'm not going to say what, because I don't know what might happen, and a real shame for Hamada Erquizi, who just said, that is exactly what I was planning if there were better service from Kunos.
That is a real shame, and it would have been great to see Hamada Akizi, see him battling at the front. I mean, he built up that 5-second gap in the sprint race early on, and unfortunately it came to nothing. Yeah, Nicholas Erbrich, though, there's Luke Whitehead looking for a move in towards the Coca-Cola curve, and you can see there Erbrich left the door open, and Luke Whitehead sails his way through and up into 3rd place, and just sticking a nose down the inside and seeing how Erbrich reacted, well, Erbrich gave him the space, and Luke Whitehead didn't need a second invitation for that one and took it. Now up onto the podium places.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, we have 22 minutes and 18 seconds on the clock remaining here at event 3 of the HyperX Open Series here on World Pro Racing. Live on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and now there's been a bit of a moment. Now, that was Simon Crane. Simon Crane from Pulse Simsport just had a howler of a moment going through Coca-Cola. Unfortunately, that is a real shame.
Really is. And I think as well the number 40 of Jan Ryler has since retired from the race. I did see the yellow dot of the number 40 at the exit of the Schumacher SS, so I can only assume he lost it on his own up there and decided enough was enough. The number 53 of Simon Crane also calling it a day as well as he retires from the race. So we're down to 18 runners. And there is Jonathan Seville. 10.2 seconds is the gap between himself and the race leader. Watch out for Luke Whitehead, though, because he's very much closing into the back of the Pulse Simsport Racing number 97 Aston Martin. 3.3 seconds it was at the last timing line. Next timing line is coming up very shortly on the run now through Advan and on towards the NGK chicane. We'll see what the gap is between Seville and Whitehead coming up there. 2.7 seconds. So that's 0.6 of a second, really, through one timing loop.
Yeah, that just shows how quickly you can close that gap. So, yeah, it's still all to play for. Arturas Medvedevas battling away with Oleg Kamenev, who's fired up after having to serve that drive-through penalty. That will be for track limits, and that can just show you through a race like this, you have to be on point, you have to be precise, you have to be consistent, make no unforced errors. And the unforced error from Oleg Kamenev was a very, very costly one as they go through into the NGK chicane. Kamenev was looking up the inside, going through into Avan, but Medvedevas not letting the 354 Aston Martin get through. But as they come through Coca-Cola, looks like a good run from the Aston Martin on the Ferrari, heading down the start-finish straight.
Yep, could look for a move, could size up an opportunity down in towards Haken, then looking for the inside move on the Lithuanian, but Kamenev has to back out of that one, just putting Medvedevas under a little bit of pressure then through the first turn, now in towards the Mercedes arena. Jonathan Seville has just taken 1.5 seconds out of Jordan Grant-Smith. In retaliation, Luke Whitehead has taken almost a second out of Jonathan Seville. It's almost like the race is starting to close up at the top three. This one is far from over between those three.
Yeah, I think Whitehead, by taking that slightly longer stop, has really put himself into the fray. Has really put himself into contention, and that just shows the sign of a driver that is very much switched on. And Luke Whitehead only joined H2R Racing a few months ago, towards the tail end of 2020, if memory serves me correctly. And you know, his skill set that he's managed to improve and to also build upon has shown just how credible he is. And now Whitehead is 1.3 seconds behind Seville, as now Kamenev closing on Medvedevas. You can see that Seville not closing in as much as he'd like on Grant Smith, but Whitehead, I think, has got that pace. If he can close that gap up really quickly to Seville and get past, Seville is like the cork in the bottle.
Yeah, and I think as well, this proves that Luke Whitehead is on some fresh rubber compared to the two ahead of him who are not. They couldn't afford to. Medvedevas under pressure here from Oleg Kamenev, who wants this position. He wants his 11th place. He'll take the inside line in towards the NGK chicane, and Medvedevas just lets him have it. Then he had the car alongside Kamenev up into 11th place. His next target will be Tom Otti, who's around about 7 seconds up the road.
Yeah, there's Jonathan Seville, and there is Luke Whitehead. Oh, it's already happened. So Seville opting not to change tyres, and now Whitehead, I think, has pulled a bit of a masterstroke here. So he will get the run of the window of opportunity has been made. It hasn't come to Luke Whitehead. He's made that window of opportunity appear out of thin air, and now the gap is 0.6. It was nearly 1.3 seconds on the last intermediate. So now Luke Whitehead has the bullseye on the back of that rear bumper of that Aston Martin from Jonathan Seville, right in his crosshairs. And it is not going to be a case of if, it's going to be a case of when does Luke Whitehead pull the pin on the grenade, throws it at Jonathan Seville, and gets past for second position.
We'll have to wait and see as we see Dean Vella having to keep Simon Speth at bay, then in towards the... He's got the Michelin and Vorsteiner complex, then back onto the power. A little bit of a kick of gravel up then from Dean Vella. Meanwhile, we're going side by side already. Then Luke Whitehead trying to find the inside line of Jonathan Seville as they pass the start-finish line. You see there the Aston Martin just about has the nose ahead, but Luke Whitehead has the fresher rubber. He can slow that car down more effectively. He'll take the position away for now, and he'll have the inside line in towards the Mercedes arena. Nice move from Luke Whitehead. He's up into second place, and where Grant Smith and Seville had to not change tyres. They wanted the track position. 7.7 seconds is a huge margin. Even if you're on fresher tyres to try and close in on someone else, they knew track position had to be critical. But Luke Whitehead on fresher tyres has already dispatched of Jonathan Seville. His next target, just over 8 seconds up the road, is the race leader, Jordan Grant-Smith.
All I'm going to say is 2021 Spanish Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton versus Max Verstappen. I think we've got a Barcelona situation here at the Nürburgring here today. Now that gap's already gone down to 8.1 seconds, so Whitehead has done the a la Mercedes strategy, even though he's in Ingolstadt's finest. Simon Speth battling away with Dean Vella, and the German has got past the GT Omega RPM esports driver for what is now 8th on the road. Tom McEwing and Gergely Kunsabo battling away over what is 14th position, and just behind them Marcin Adamczyk in the 321 Audi. So we're fast approaching into the 4th and final quarter of this race in just 15 or so seconds time. Now Whitehead is already starting chipping away at that time. That gap now between him and Jordan Grant-Smith is 7.7 seconds. Well, Grant-Smith goes on to lap number 24. Whitehead will cross the line very shortly. So let's see what the 408 has in the pocket now. Just under 7.4 or 7.5 seconds between the pair. And I think with that pace that Whitehead is showing here, Kieran, I think Grant-Smith knows that the Luke Whitehead freight train is up to full speed.
Yes, and Grant-Smith's got to be careful here because he's got to manage his tyres to the very end. Tom McEwing then having to defend from Kunsabo going in towards the Dunlop curve, and that little bit of camber towards the apex of the corner really helped out McEwing there. And there you can see Adamczyk is right behind, looking to try and take advantage in that 16th place spot. Tom McEwing managing to hold on to 14th place in the McEwing Motorsport McLaren. And then you've got Kunsabo in 15th place right now, running the slightly unusual for him, number 38 in the gifted racing team, Aston Martin. He won't be happy with that car number, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's not one that we normally see Gergely actually run with, to be honest with you, Kieran, but nevertheless, he's still doing his absolute utmost to battle with the likes of Tom McEwing. And also, you can see as well, McEwing, the rear right on that McLaren, decides to go a bit skywards, a bit like a Yorkshire Terrier cocking its leg a little bit there in terms of a reference point. But the good thing is McEwing kept that car nice and stable through the apex, and has kept ahead of Gergely Kunsabo. But there's still all to play for because we've got just under 13.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, and Kunsabo once again trying to just see if Tom McEwing will react to a move then, as we now make our way through the Mercedes arena. There you can see Adamczyk again trying a different line, but I think he's just holding on and having the popcorn moment at the moment. He's got the best seat in the house of that battle for 14th place, and he's just waiting to see what happens between the two ahead before he commits to a move. These three drivers are quite a distance away from David Ohak, so they're focusing now on 14th place. And there you can see Adamczyk right now just waiting, just biding his time and seeing what happens with the two cars ahead. Again, taking a slightly different line, a slightly deeper line into Ford to try and get the better exit. But look at Kunsabo right ahead on the run now, down towards Dunlop. He's trying everything in the book here to try and find a way past Tom McEwing. McEwing had an answer going in towards Dunlop, now back onto the power as we climb the hill towards the Michael Schumacher S. Taking plenty of curb on the right hand side on the entry then, the suspension can take it. And the Hungarian wants to find a way past the McEwing Motorsport car. He'll look to the outside now, going in towards Michelin. Has he got the line there? No, McEwing just about stays ahead then. And Kunsabo runs wide and might find himself having a compromised line going in towards Vorsteiner. But he actually gets recovered by the cambered nature of the right-hander. So he's able to get back onto the power, back into the slipstream, and back into the toe, up towards the chicane here, the NGK chicane. He's going for a move round the outside on entry. He'll have the inside line going through the second part. It's door to door between the two of them, but Kunsabo does find his way ahead. And now Adamczyk tries to find his way through. He makes contact with McEwing going in towards the Coca-Cola curve, but Kunsabo moves into 14th place, and that's McEwing down to 15th. Adamczyk tried to find a way through, but couldn't quite do it.
Right, the gap is being decimated. First to second was 5 seconds. It's now 4. Grant-Smith has now got trouble. Well, he's not looking for trouble. Trouble's going to find him because there is Luke Whitehead. The gap is closing. Now, Harry Spears said, I predict Luke will catch up with about 2 laps left. Well, that gap in a sector, well, in a couple of sectors, has just dropped by 1.3 seconds. So Whitehead is on a mission. He clearly took new tyres. Grant-Smith deciding to play the long game, and along with him and Seville, they decided not to use new tyres because, as you said earlier, Kieran, they wanted track position. But Whitehead wanted all-out pace, and sometimes you have to go like the clappers, and that is exactly what Luke Whitehead is doing right now. We're going to wait until they get through the next intermediate, and that's about to be approached right now into the braking zone into Dunlop. Grant Smith has just gone through that, and now Whitehead goes through 2.6 seconds. He's absolutely flying. Luke Whitehead is quite clearly gunning for Jordan Grant Smith, and we have, ladies and gentlemen, an epic fight of gargantuan proportions building up to a mushroom cloud explosion as we head into the final 6, the final 10 minutes here at the Nürburgring.
I would say this is your last chance to grab the popcorn, but I think it's too late for that. At the rate Luke Whitehead is closing in on Jordan Grant Smith, they're now sharing pretty much the same piece of track, now making our way through Advan and now on towards 2 seconds, another 0.4 of a second in that timing loop alone through in towards the final corner at the Coca-Cola curve. And Jordan Grant Smith has come across one driver in particular, Ashton Cox, who I think has just peeled off into the pit lane, and he has maybe trying to go for the fastest lap of this race. You never know, he does love to be in these races, and even if it's not going his way, he'll stick around till the checkered flag. Luke Whitehead though is on a mission, and his teammate Hamada Akizi is giving him all the praise in our chat on YouTube. Tom McEwen going side by side with Adam Chick then, and just about holding on to 15th place. That's going to be an elbows out battle for 15th.
Yeah, I think the tyres have fallen off the cliff for Jordan Grant Smith, as has Hamada Akizi. He basically said Jordan has no tyres. Well, that was pretty evident because the gap is 2.3 seconds. I think probably the next time we go through another intermediate, I think my bet here, I'm not a betting man, but a sportsman's bet is very much paramount here. Probably through the next intermediate, I would say that Luke Whitehead will be within 2 seconds. And, well, there you go, 1.6. So Whitehead, on average, has been taking anywhere between 0.6 to 1.1 second out of Grant Smith. And now he knows that Grant Smith is like a wounded animal trying to get away from the wolf pack, and at the moment the wolf that's hunting it down has the 4 rings on it. So it is Weissach versus Ingolstadt, it is Porsche versus Audi. We head into the last 7 minutes and 50 seconds as Whitehead using all of the track and then some to really get the run going through into Advan. We're going to hit another intermediate. So it was 1.6 seconds, well it was 1.7. So Grant Smith looked to gain about 1/10 on the previous sector, but then it's when we get to this long part on here. So what Grant Smith needs to be is very astute. He needs to know where to place that car and not give Luke Whitehead the opportunity to banzai his way up in the inside or outside thereof, as the gap now drops to 1.5 seconds.
I mean, for Jordan Grant Smith, there was no other strategy on his mind. As soon as he was around 8 seconds behind Luke Whitehead before the pit stops, he knew he had to roll the dice. Don't take any tyres on. Let's get track position. We're about to find out now how difficult it's going to be for Grant Smith to keep Luke Whitehead, who's on fresher tyres, a fresh set of tyres, fresh set of rubber, and able to use his tyres to their maximum, especially through these medium and high speed corners, as we now follow Luke Whitehead in towards Ford curve, using plenty of curb on the exit there, as you're allowed to do, and now heading down the hill towards Dunlop. That doesn't look like 1.5 seconds to me anymore, and now you can see 0.7 of a second now as they head through Dunlop. Back onto the power they go towards the Michael Schumacher S, and this might be a valiant attempt from Jordan Grant Smith to keep Luke Whitehead behind, but how long can he do it?
Give it another lap and a half, and I think Luke Whitehead will get past. I mean, that gap was halved in that previous sector, so just under 7.5 of a second separate our two leaders. Make it probably even less than that. I would probably hope to say that it might be about 2 to 3 tenths, but I think Luke Whitehead, he probably doesn't even need a lap and a half to get past Jordan Grant Smith as Tom McEwen. And then you've got Marcin Adamczyk battling away. Adamczyk goes wide But just keeping my eyes, there are the two leaders as they come through into the NGK chicane. Gap now 2.5 tenths. Whitehead now senses the opportunity. He took half a second clean out of the advantage of Jordan Grant-Smith. And now the battle is going to be, I think it's going to be short-lived. But Jordan Grant-Smith going into the Hagen has to position the car at the right place, at the right time, to not give the affordability to Luke Whitehead to get past.
Luke Whitehead's got to play his game here. He's on fresher rubber. He knows through some of these corners, Jordan Grant-Smith just hasn't got the tyres to hang on. It's all well and good trying to force the move, but Luke Whitehead here will just have to play a little bit of a patient game. Meanwhile, Tom Otte is battling away with Oleg Kamenev. That's for that last top 10 position then, as Tom Otte in that fantastic V12 Aston Martin trying to hold back Kamenev then as we make our way up the hill then towards the NGK chicane, and I think Tom Otte's just got that position for now. But how about the battle for the lead then? As you can see in the picture-in-picture, Grant-Smith holding on to that lead for now as they run now down towards the Dunlop curve. Now this is where Luke Whitehead might have a couple of issues. He got past Jonathan Seville. There's very limited places you can actually make an overtake stick here. This could be one of them, because out of the Dunlop curve then, he gets a little bit sideways, does Luke Whitehead. That compromises his exit, and that gives a lifeline, another one to Jordan Grant-Smith through the Michael Schumacher rest, and you can see just how close Whitehead is just looking at the rear wing of this Porsche of the GS Racing 120 of Jordan Grant-Smith, heading our way now in towards Michelin and Vorsteiner, and you can see Luke Whitehead is sizing up this move. The question is, when does he pull the trigger?
I mean, not that far away, I would have thought, but the gap between them, 0.3 of a second last time around. We're going to go through to another intermediate very shortly as they hurtle their way through Advan. Now that's a great run by Luke Whitehead. He's looking to the right-hand side of the Porsche, going through into the NGK chicane, looking to get the cut back. And he could get a really good run coming through. And look at how feisty Grant-Smith has literally become. He's gone to Whitehead. Right, you want to get past me? You got to do it right. I'm not going to give you much of a window of opportunity. So we got this, plus an additional lap. Look how frantic! He was doing the old ninja hands like Pato Award for Arrow McLaren SP in IndyCar. Whitehead looking to the outside. Oh my goodness, through the Mercedes arena, Grant-Smith hangs on in the Porsche. Shredded tyres and all. He's kept Luke Whitehead at bay, and that was an absolutely epic defence. Whitehead knew that he's got to fight for it. We're on the penultimate lap of this race, lap 30. We're going to hit a total of 31 laps here in the feature race, and my goodness me, Kieran McGinley, we've got one hell of a finish coming right up.
I tell you what, if Jordan Grant-Smith can grab the apex of each and every corner, it's going to make life difficult for Luke Whitehead. They're going to run side by side, though, in towards the Dunlop curve. Has Jordan Grant-Smith done enough to keep Luke Whitehead at bay for just another corner? They'll run side by side on the exit then as they run now up towards the Michael Schumacher S. Not normally you see cars go too wide through here. We're about to see it then, door to door through the Michael Schumacher S. They're still running side by side now as they make their way now up towards the Michelin curve. Luke Whitehead has now got himself ahead of Jordan Grant-Smith then as they make their way through, and a move that we thought was inevitable. Valiant attempt from Jordan Grant-Smith to hold the position, but Luke Whitehead on fresher rubber gets the move for the lead.
That was timed really, really well. We had perfection personified for the pit stop for Jordan Grant-Smith, but on pure pace, Luke Whitehead made the right call, and now you can see those tyres really dropping off a cliff. Grant-Smith cutting the grass on the inside of the NGK chicane, and as Hamada Akwizi once said, he has just said in the chat, that was epic. Hamada, you're not kidding. You took the words out of both of our mouths right now, as Jan-Niklas Ebrich and Dean Riley back at loggerheads, these two. This is for the... I'm not going to repeat what Hamada Akwizi's just put in the YouTube chat. But yes, it's definitely what Sebastian said, that you need to have big... I'll let you finish in the blank, ladies and gentlemen watching at home. But we're on the final lap, 60 seconds to go, and Whitehead already start stretching an advantage. He's going to be at least well over a second up. But I think probably just by my mathematics that I think that Jordan Grant-Smith, think will effectively take the victory here this evening. We'll wait for official confirmed scores post-race from the crew, the broadcast crew over in Malta. But it has been an epic evening of really revved up racing here tonight at the Nürburgring for the third event of the World Pro Racing HyperX Open Series. Don't forget you can go to worldproracing.com for further information. Head to worldproracing.com/events to get yourself signed up to even, say, the Duo Series, which has plenty of spaces available next week on Tuesday. We also have the concluding round of the Alpine GT4 Championship on Wednesday. The next round of the AMD GT4 Championship and the penultimate round of the, the next round of the World Pro Racing Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series. So the timer strikes 0, and after 60 minutes here at the Nürburgring, with an absolutely audacious call in the pit stop phase, a brand new set of boots, it's catapulted H2R Racing's Luke Whitehead to the checkered flag and the victory after 31 laps. But still, Jordan Grant-Smith, hats off, sir. A first in the sprint race, a second in the feature race. Jonathan Seville will again, for the second race in succession, take third position, and that effectively gives provisionally the Pulse SimSport driver the Pulsefire Haste Mouse this time around. Jan-Niklas Epprich in fourth ahead of Dean Riley. Alex Leaf and Sheldon Muscat ran out the top 7. Simon Speth will come across the line momentarily ahead of Dean Vella to round out the top 8. The 54 from GT Omega RPM Racing takes 9th ahead of Oleg Kamenev. Tom Otti will finish in 11th ahead of Arturas Medvedevas. David Ohak, Gergely Kunsabo. And we've got Marcin Adamczyk, Tom McEwing, Andrea Rizzo. And that was the last of the 17 classified finishers. But Luke Whitehead takes the feature race here at the World Pro Racing HyperX Open Series here at the Nürburgring in the Eifel regions of Germany. Grant Smith and Seville round out the top 3, but under the bright Eifel sunshine, it's one apiece for Grant Smith and Whitehead here at event number 3.
I mean, let's just think about it this way. Grant Smith didn't have the tyres to justify that battling, but my goodness, did he make a meal of it? Did he make it exciting as well, going side by side through the Michael Schumacher-esque on those worn tyres as well? That was brave from Luke Whitehead to trust that the Porsche wasn't just going to understeer into him. Came very close, door to door even, but fantastic racing between those two. And Luke Whitehead with the fresher tyres, taking that risk at the pit stop to go onto a fresh set of boots. It really worked, and I can't fault Jordan Grant-Smith, and I can't fault the third place man either. They knew they had to get track position. They knew they couldn't change their tyres, otherwise they were just going to lose too much time, even more time, to Luke Whitehead. The only way they were going to beat him was by refueling alone and not changing those tyres, and in the end, predictably, it's come back to haunt them.
Well, we're now going to go to our interview section here at the at World Pro Racing. So firstly, we have our third place driver, a total of 32 points from Pulse SimSport, and also picking up a HyperX Pulsefire Haste Mouse, Jonathan Seville. Jonathan, firstly, thank you very much for taking part this evening. You had some battles of your own out there, but still to get 2 third places behind the likes of Jordan Grant-Smith and also Luke Whitehead, still a very good achievement nonetheless.
Yeah, very happy with that. I didn't quite have the pace to those two up front in that final race. I think we all went on different strategies, and I think mine probably was the worst in the end. Tyres losing the best towards the end. Yeah, when Luke Whitehead came up behind me, I had nothing there then. Yeah, third place, but that's a good result. Take that.
Yeah, indeed, and that's picked you up a brand new mouse. Obviously, the good thing is that it just shows that having an initiative like the Open Series is really, really good for drivers that, you know, we know that things are tight with regards to finances, and obviously sim racing equipment and computer equipment is not cheap these days, but to now pick up a brand new HyperX Pass Fire Haste Mouse, that's going to be a nice little addition to your rig, I bet.
Yeah, that is nice. Mine must have been playing up a bit, so that's great for me. That's a nice replacement.
Well, Jonathan, obviously, last thing really, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to, sponsors, friends, team? I know that I do know Miles Dixon and Simon Crane from Pulse Sim Sports, so good to have them with us as well. Anyone else you'd like to give a shout out for tonight?
Yeah, so a shout out to everyone on the team. Not been with them very long, and I've had a lot of fun so far. So a big shout out to them, and then to our sponsors, RC Racing Europe, SimTech Racing, Positive Perception, FS Sim Racing Wheels. Yeah, yeah, that's it, I think.
Okay, well, Jonathan Seville, thank you very much for joining us and tonight.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we're going to hand over to Kieran, who's actually managed to catch up to Luke Whitehead, who is second this evening and picks up a Cloud Alpha S headset from HyperX.
I have indeed, and Luke, that must be a great prize to have because you've already got the top prize in an earlier round. But talk us through tonight, because a sprint race looked like the overcut worked on you, but that second race you completely turned it on its head.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, race one, I did a terrible job in the pit stops. I was way too conservative, and I actually overshot my pit box as well. So it was not a good moment for me, and I also nearly crashed on the outlap. So race one, bit of a nightmare from my part, and Jordan did really well to hold on to it. It's always difficult to defend in the Porsche because obviously it's not got the straight line speed. So yeah, he did a really good job. And I was happy to come back. I was gutted for Hamada because for me, I think he should have had first prize today. He was, extremely fast in that McLaren. McLaren's strong here, but Hamada is also really strong in his own right around here. So, I was gutted for him, but yeah, I couldn't be happy with race two. I really couldn't. It was a awesome battle with Jordan. Really massive respect to him. It was very, very nice.
Yeah, and making the move stick through the Schumacher S. I mean, what was going through your head there? Censored, obviously, but what was going through your mind when you're going side by side through there with only a couple of kilometres to go?
Well, I was just like, well, it's out of our, it's kind of out of our hands now because I expected a crash. I'll be honest. Through there, it's a one-line corner, so to even attempt to go side by side, let alone go side by side with only a tiny little touch on the exit, is just. I kind of came out the corner kind of questioning. I was like, how did we do that? So yeah, it was really, really great from Jordan. To be honest, it was a fun race anyway because I decided, obviously since I'd won the first prize last time and my tyres were dead in race one, I decided, you know what, I'm going to see what it's like to pit for a second set, and it came good in the end, but it was a very, very, very good fun. So massive respect to Jordan. Well done to Jonathan as well. He drove a good race. Yeah, really, really good fun that was.
And you've got yourself the keyboard, as you said, you won in the previous round. You've got yourself the headset today, so I'm expecting you to return to grab that third place prize of the mouse in the near future. But for now, Luke, congratulations on your runner-up prize. The floor is yours for any shout-outs, any sponsors you'd like to thank.
So first of all, I'd like to say, massive condolences again to Hamada. He should have won. He would have won race one, and I think he would have definitely won race two. So, great for him, but he'll obviously come back stronger. I think he's doing the next one. So, yeah, he'll be up there. He always is. So, yeah, brilliant job from him. A massive thank you again to H3 Racing as always. They've been massively helpful recently, and I'm actually racing with SDO Esports with Team WRT Audi Sport in Paul Ricard's SRO tomorrow, which is very exciting for me. And obviously, this was a bit of preparation, obviously in the Audi, so trying to get used to that as much as possible. Obviously, it's a car I don't often drive, so yeah, massive thank you to those guys for the opportunity. I plan to make the most of it. Hopefully, I won't let those guys down. And also, finally, thank you for everyone for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that last race. I think it was very, very exciting from my end. Hopefully it was the same from yours.
It was certainly exciting from the commentary box as well. Luke, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Congratulations, and congratulations on your second place and new headset as provided by HyperX.
Very much. Thank you. Take care.
And I'll now hand back over to Alex Goldschmidt, who's there with our series winner.
Yes, a total of 40 points, a win in the sprint, and second, despite his best efforts to keep Luke Whitehead at bay. Jordan Grant Smith is the winner of our third event of the HyperX Open Series. And Jordan, firstly, many congratulations, and you pick up the Alloy Elite 2 keyboard courtesy of HyperX. Firstly, how are you feeling?
Honestly, amazing. I didn't know going into the last race what the points were for the second race, so I was just gonna race right until the end, regardless of, even if I had to keep P2. I didn't know. I was just fighting until the very end. But yeah, no, honestly, respect to Luke. An amazing move through the Schumacher S, and just amazing racing overall. It was really good to have like such different strategies and then have it come together right at the end. But yeah, really good job to Luke on the second race as well.
I have to say kudos to you in particular. Both yourself and Jonathan decided to not opt to take a fresh set of boots in the pit stop phase, and Luke decided to change things up and go for broke, and it paid off. But just from your perspective, when he decided to plant the Audi where he did on the Schumacher S's, was your first thought, sort of like probably in the words of, this is going to get rather close and personal right about now?
Actually, quite the opposite. I make it my objective to be able to go too wide anywhere. I believe it's possible, and as long as there are two drivers who are cooperating and being clean, as Luke was, it's certainly possible. And yeah, it's nice to know that it's paid off, and yeah, hope it was certainly fun in the car.
Well, you've picked up the keyboard courtesy of our sponsors at HyperX. Is there anybody else that you'd like to give a shout out? Sponsors, friends, family, before we let you go?
Shout out to SimStrata Technologies, my commercial partner, and shout out to Harry Spears for strategy advice that really paid off in the end, and it was really close.
Well, Jordan, well done tonight, and I have to give a shout out to Harry Spears, always very talented, whether it be on driving duties or strategy call. But congratulations, Jordan, once again.
Take care.
So, Kieran. From World Pro Racing and also from HyperX, the title sponsor of it, to give something back to the community. And it just shows that these drivers are willing to put it all on the line, and we saw that tonight.
We saw great shows for great prizes as well, as provided by HyperX, and the three drivers that walk away with those prizes are fully deserving of them. They put on a fantastic show. They've put the strategies working whenever they needed to, and we even saw different strategies in the feature race all coming to a head in the final few minutes of the race. I don't really know what more you could have wanted. It was great battling, great fighting all throughout the field, and I can't wait to do it all again very soon.
Indeed. Well, realistically, to finish things off here at this broadcast on World Pro Racing, firstly, we'd like to thank every one of you that have been watching, courtesy of TVM Sports in Malta, Motorsport.tv, and our friends and partners at Esports Television, along with the World Pro Racing Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch streams. Just a brief reminder, we have got so much racing going on next week. The Duo Series returns, funny enough, at this particular circuit, the Nürburgring, for a 3-hour endurance race. It is a team event. Sign-ups still very much open, and there are plenty of spaces available. It's a 3-hour race around the Nürburgring. We head to Elkhart Lake, Road America, for the final round of the Alpine GT4 Championship. The AMD GT4 Championship heads into its next round next Thursday, and once again, we head back to the World Pro Racing Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series. It's the penultimate round next week at Monza. So on behalf of Kieran McGinley, myself, Alex Goldschmidt, the team over in Malta, our race director crew of Adrian Figalo and George Muscat, both FIA accredited, and also to our broadcast team, Justin and Nathan Mifsud behind the cameras. That's it from us for now. See you after the weekend for what is going to be action galore, adrenaline highs, and maybe a few contretemps along the way. Thank you for watching, and good night.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.